Chapter 1913. Jiang Tian continued his journey. The further east he went, the closer he got to the evil-infested ridge and the critical canyon, the more powerful the beasts he encountered. In the end, he even met a half-step divine transformation serpent that was at least 1,000 meters long. It was like a small mountain that floated in the air. From head to tail, it was covered in streamlined scales that flashed with a metallic luster. Its claws were sharp and its eyes were filled with a crimson light. It was incomparably bloody and ferocious. When they met Jiang Tian, it was devouring a small group of cultivators. This group of cultivators was made up of 7 or 8 people. They were all nascent soul cultivators. Their clothing was completely different from the southern border. They were clearly natives of the Eastern Gorge public land. They were probably trying to complete a mission or to train their cultivation, so they went out of the city to hunt beasts. However, they didn't expect to be caught by this half-step divine transformation serpent. They simply couldn't resist and killed one person with one claw. It tore them apart and swallowed them into its mouth. Such a big one, I'm going to be happy again. Jiang Tian's eyes shot out a ferocious light. His clothes were tattered like a madman as his body directly flashed over. He punched out and a bright golden light gathered in his fist like a small sun in the sky. It was incomparably bright. The serpent was extremely cunning and had already noticed Jiang Tian. Its body suddenly flashed. Although its body was huge, it was extremely agile, so Jiang Tian only focused on its tail. Boom! Jiang Tian's fist imprinted a deep bloody hole on the tail. The serpent's ferocious nature erupted. It let out an angry roar and turned its head. It opened its sharp dragon mouth and ferocious claws and attacked Jiang Tian. Suddenly, a ray of divine light came from the distance at an extremely fast speed. Within the divine light, there was a peerless heavenly woman. Her figure was tall and graceful with a peerless charm. Her entire body was shrouded in divine light, so one couldn't see her appearance clearly. She was like a fairy. The woman raised her hand and a ray of light streaked across and circled around the serpent's neck. Poof! The serpent's head that was as big as a house was chopped off. Countless black demonic blood spurted out. At this moment, the crowd finally saw clearly that the streak of light was a saint weapon as thin as autumn water, shining with a faint light. 5,000 miles south from here, all the ferocious beasts have been cleared by me. You all should leave quickly. The mysterious woman said. Her voice was incomparably cold and pleasant to the ear, as if it came from the 9 heavens. Thank you for saving my life, fairy. The few surviving cultivators all knelt down and kowtowed before leaving in a hurry. Good weapon. Since I can't use the absolute heaven sword, I might as well kill her and take her treasure. Jiang Tian's eyes immediately widened. He first glanced at the holy weapon in this woman's hand. Then, he could not help but rub his hands together like a fly in excitement. He was the incarnation of the evil thoughts in Jiang Tian's heart. Even though his mana and skills were on par with the original body, his actions were wretched and vicious. Fairy, let's negotiate. The sacred artifact in your hand is extremely skilled in refining. I wonder if I can borrow it to study it in detail. Jiang Tian got closer. His eyes were filled with greed and his saliva was about to flow out. You want to steal my treasure? The mysterious fairy's face was covered by a veil and her expression could not be seen clearly due to the dense holy light. She only snorted coldly and her voice was as cold as an ancient glacier. You don't know what's good for you. Can't you see that I'm a half-step void return cultivator? Aren't you afraid of death? Tiski, a half-sage. Jiang Tian crossed his arms and said casually, like a street gangster or an idler in a village. He said leisurely, who are you trying to scare? I'm not afraid. It's not like I can't kill you with some underhanded methods. Come, hand over your holy weapon for me to study. I'm a playboy, the passionate prince. I naturally have tender feelings for the fairer sex. I won't kill you. Instead, I'll dote on you and cultivate together with you. We'll reach the peak of nirvana together. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Lecher, you want to die. The mysterious fairy was so angry that her body trembled slightly. She shouted coldly. Her voice was as clear and cold as jade. At the same time, a monstrous pressure was released. The holy weapon in her hand vibrated wildly with a murderous aura. Jiang Tian's words were extremely frivolous. It was as if he was molesting her. This woman's status was extremely high and her cultivation was high. How could she tolerate him? What a fierce little mare. I like it. I want to ride it. My cultivation is heaven-defying and I'm talented. I'm the reincarnation of the 9 heavens immortals. You can't kill me. Little girl, let's try cultivating together. I'll make you feel good from your hair to your toes. If you don't like it, it's not too late to kill me. I won't fight back. Jiang Tian was bold and lustful. He was not afraid at all. Instead, he winked and tempted her patiently. Fairy Qingjue, come quickly. The mighty figures of the demon clan are ferocious. We can't resist them. The mysterious fairy was about to attack Jiang Tian when a scream came from the jade token at her waist. She had something important to do. In addition, Jiang Tian's words were crazy. She thought that this person was probably crazy. Why should she lower herself to his level and delay the rescue of Li Yichen and Linda? I don't have any skills to deal with you, but I'll make you suffer a little. The fairy cast a space-shifting talisman and sent Jiang Tian to a monster's lair thousands of miles away. Then she left quickly. Fairy Qingjue? The 9 Mysteries Sect's holy maiden? So it's her. In my previous life, she was high and mighty. I couldn't covet her. If I don't eat you up today, I'll have lived another life in vain. Jiang Tian struck out with his fists and feet, quickly crippling these fierce beasts, and stepped out of the cave covered in blood. Shaking his clothes, his eyes flashed with a trace of wretchedness and greed. Stepping into the air, he chased after the woman, apparently forgetting that he was going to rescue Lin Dai. 100 Flowers Peak. Originally, the mountains were beautiful. Springs gurgled, waterfalls cascading down like waterfalls, fragrant grass, and hundreds of flowers bloomed. Throughout the year, the sun was warm and the wind was warm. It was like spring all year round. However, at this moment, the sky was covered with dark clouds. Demonic wind blew. Sometimes, there were flashes of lightning, thunder, and heavy rain. Sometimes, there was a snowstorm. On the ground, corpses were strewn everywhere. Blood and flesh were badly mangled and bones were piled up. From time to time, colorful lightning flashed. That was because the fragments of the Dharma laws collided in the air. It was a mess like hell. Several divine lords of the soul formation stage and hundreds of nascent soul stage heavenly lords were fighting crazily. Sword chi was everywhere, the Dharma laws were surging, and the atmosphere was murderous. The beautiful mountains had already collapsed into rubble. The bottom of the valley had risen high and the terrain had changed drastically. On a mountain 100 miles to the east of 100 Flowers Peak, there were hundreds of masters standing proudly. They were watching the battle closely. They were all wearing uniforms and seemed to be the subordinates of the Duke of Eastern Canyon. Among them, there were 5 divine lords. Each of them was surrounded by the Dharma laws and the Great Tao. Even the weakest of them was at the peak of the nascent soul stage. Each of them had an extraordinary temperament and profound cultivation. Duke of Eastern Canyon, it seems like the demon race's grand masters of the Myriad Demons Palace are fighting with the 9 Mysteries sect. The Myriad Demons Palace is the most evil force of the demon race in the Empire. The Empire views them as a mortal enemy and they are fighting in the territory of the Duke. Should we help the 9 Mysteries sect to eliminate the Myriad Demons Palace? A middle-aged divine lord looked at an old man riding on a nascent soul stage flood dragon and asked respectfully. This middle-aged divine lord was handsome and elegant. He was at the late stage of the soul formation stage and was one of the 4 honorable guests of the Duke of Eastern Canyon. He cultivated the Dharma laws and the great Tao of painting. His name was Dan Qingsheng. The brush in his hand was able to create things out of thin air. He was one of the top 20 masters in the Empire. Brother Dan Qing, do you think that the 9 Mysteries sect is not the mortal enemy of the Empire? The Duke of Eastern Canyon was at the peak of the soul formation stage. He was tall and muscular and his back was straight. He was vigorous and vigorous. His hair was white and shiny, but his face was ruddy and there was not a single wrinkle on his skin. He looked like a newborn baby. His eyes were as bright as lightning, giving people a sense of wisdom and sharpness. He was indeed worthy of being one of the 4 dukes of the empire. Chapter 1914. Danqing, don't worry. Their sects are powerful and they can steal resources from the empire as they please. They can even manipulate the feudal lords and ignore the imperial power. It's a dogfight between them and the pantheon of demons. Let's just watch from the sidelines and reap the benefits. The one who spoke was another guest elder of the dragon family, bald Penwang. His appearance was aged and he had a red, windy nose. His green clothes were in tatters, greasy and dirty, and he carried a large brush that was like a mop on his shoulder. He held a red-skinned wine gourd in his hand, and he occasionally took a sip while speaking with drunken eyes. Who do you think will win? Another middle-aged divine lord who was dressed like a scholar said coldly. The scholar was bald and his face was thin. His eyebrows were slightly furrowed as if he was always thinking. But his eyes were as calm as an ancient well. It seemed that even the collapse of the world couldn't move him at all. His name was Stone Fozy and he was an expert in chess. He was also one of the 4 vassals under the Duke of Eastern Gorge. Through chess, he had comprehended the heavenly Tao and the art of formations. Not only was he one of the 4 vassals, but he was also one of the Duke of Eastern Gorge's advisors. I think the 9 Mystery Sect is better. Didn't you see that the saintess of the 9 Mystery Sect, Fairy Qingjue, is here? The last guest elder, Huang Zhonggong, said with a smile. He was a monk in a loose robe with a scar on his head. There were golden bells and gyukins of different sizes floating in front of him. They made waves of vibrating sound waves that disturbed the world. The 4 guest elders were the most powerful assistants of the Duke of the Eastern Canyon. They were good at music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. They were also known as the 4 greats of the Eastern Canyon. Everyone was a bit scared after hearing that. They looked at a woman who was standing in the air outside of the battle on 100 Flowers Peak. This woman wore a moon-white robe that fluttered in the wind. She had a peerlessly beautiful appearance and a graceful bearing. Her entire body was enveloped in strands of divine radiance, and she gave off an ethereal feeling. She was like a celestial maiden from the 9 heavens. At the same time, 3 soul formation grand cultivators of the demon race had already taken Lin Dyer and a handsome young man in the uniform of the 9 Mysteries sect hostage. They were leading hundreds of nascent soul realm demons to break through the dimension and rush out. On the outside, there were 4 divine transformation stage elders and hall masters of the 9 Mysteries sect, along with hundreds of nascent soul stage cultivators. They coordinated with each other and surrounded Lin Dyer and the young man like an iron bucket. From time to time, they would attack madly in an attempt to intercept and save Lin Dyer and the young man who were being held hostage. Both sides soared into the sky and burrowed into the ground, charging left and right. You charge, I block. They fought fiercely. They were evenly matched and were locked in battle. On the other hand, the saintess of the 9 Mysteries sect, Fairy Qingjue, was already at the half-step void return level and was known as a half-sage. She was the most powerful of them all. She stayed at the outermost perimeter and did not attack at all. However, when she attacked occasionally, a ray of light would flash by and easily force back the demon race grand cultivators who were about to escape. She would also kill nascent soul stage demons. Her attacks were precise and fierce, and no one could withstand her attacks. The saintess of the 9 Mysteries sect, Fairy Qingjue, is quite powerful. She is indeed a genius saintess of a famous sect. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Even the Duke of Eastern Gorge could not help but exclaim in admiration. There was also a hint of fear in his eyes. Her looks are unparalleled and her talents are extraordinary. She is indeed a peerless beauty. Sigh, if I can win her favor, even if I marry into her family, I will have to work 1,000 years less. From now on, I don't need to cultivate anymore. No one will dare to provoke me. Some of the disciples of the Duke of Eastern Gorge and some young cultivators who did not have a Tao companion were tempted. Of course, they could only be tempted. This was just an unrealistic fantasy. The Nine Mysteries sect was one of the top 10 divine sects on the continent. It was one of the top forces on the continent. Its status was extremely high and its power was terrifying. It was high and mighty, looking down on thousands of sects and suppressing many countries. Even the emperor of a country or the zongzi of a sect was not worthy of her, let alone the disciples of feudal families and nascent soul stage cultivators. The saintess, Xianxia, was not only talented, powerful, and peerless. She was also extremely noble. She was the daughter of the sect leader of the Nine Mysteries sect. When the sect leader of the Nine Mysteries sect was in seclusion, the saintess, Xianxia, was in charge of all internal and external affairs of the sect. She was equivalent to the second person in the Nine Mysteries sect, the spokesperson of the sect leader. In these holy lands, not only the children of the sect leader could be called the saintess. They had to reach the half-saint realm to be called the holy son or saintess. Otherwise, they could only be called zongzi. People like the saintess, Xianxia, were rare even among the descendants of holy lands and divine sects. Isn't Li Yichen the eldest disciple of the Nine Mysteries sect? He has a chance to inherit the orthodoxy in the future. How could he be captured by the demon clan with such quality? Suddenly, the bald pen-old man laughed mockingly. The young man in the uniform robe was the eldest disciple of the Nine Mysteries sect, Li Yichen. In the past, this young man was also known as a genius of the continent. He was also handsome and elegant, and who knew how many female cultivators were infatuated with him, as if he was their idol. However, at this moment he was extremely embarrassed. He was beaten until he was covered in blood. His hair was disheveled, and his nascent soul was restrained. He was like a dead fish puppet. He could not use any of his unique skills. He was even worse than immortal. As for Lin Daya, she was even more miserable. Her clothes were tattered, revealing her delicate skin. Her face was covered in dust, and her tears and blood were intertwined. She was terrified. She did not have the elegant demeanor of a feudal lady. However, the Duke of Eastern Gorge and the 4 foreign dignitaries were the top figures in the empire. They did not even look at her. They did not even bother to ridicule her. Li Yichen was able to reach the half-step divine transformation realm at the age of 30. He is naturally a genius. Rumor had it that Fairy Xianxia had personally imparted his cultivation to him. Otherwise, why would Saintess Xianxia save him at all costs? However, he is a genius in the future, not in the present. Right now, he is only a half-step divine transformation realm cultivator. How can he be the opponent of the demon clan? The Duke of Eastern Gorge shook his head and sighed. Lin Daya and Li Yichen are so reckless. Don't they know that the demon clan is dangerous? Don't they know that although the 100 Flowers Peak is beautiful, it is not far from the demon clan's base camp, the critical canyon and the evil-infested ridge? Aren't they sending themselves to death? Dan Qingsheng sighed and said, there was no problem for commoners to visit the 100 Flowers Peak. In the past, the demon clan did not stir up trouble. If the descendants of the feudal lords came, it would be dangerous. This was because the myriad demon palace only attacked the feudal lords. They would even distribute the wealth they obtained from the feudal lords to the poor commoners. This was a strategy for them to unite the majority. Most of the time, the commoners did not hate them. Lin Daya is indeed too stupid. Bald Bai Weng also sneered. The imperial family strictly forbids the sects from coming into contact with the feudal lords. They view these feudal lords as their mortal enemies. Among the feudal lords, there are indeed those who have apprenticed with the sect giants. However, these are all done in secret and are extremely secretive. Only she did not hide. Together with Li Yichen, they swaggered through the streets and caused a lot of discussion in the Jianghu and the imperial court. Isn't this bringing a fatal disaster to her father? Sai, who told that Lin Hanqing to be so lucky. I don't know how, but he got the mysterious guest Jiang Xiqing to help him. The Eastern Gorge Duke said with envy, this Mr. Jiang is amazing. He cured the little princess's illness and is very close to the second prince. Without the little princess and the second prince's protection, plus the need to use Lin Hanqing to suppress the purple marquis, I'm afraid that with Eastern Lu's suspicious personality, Lin Hanqing would have been killed long ago. Chapter 1915. As for his beloved daughter, Long Juxue, he didn't even mention the fact that she had been humiliated by Jiang Tian. This showed his magnanimity and extraordinary bearing. He was indeed worthy of being a peerless tyrant whose name shook the entire country and who could wrestle with Fang Jinlong. At this moment, the situation changed again. Stop! At this moment, the God Transformation Realm leader of the Monster Clan raised his hand and many of the Monster Clan cultivators retreated dozens of miles away from the Nine Mysteries sect. Obviously, he was trying to negotiate. The Nine Mysteries sect's cultivators also retreated after Saintess Qingju waved her hand. Sir God Nyo Ben, do you have something to say to me? Fairy Qingjue asked calmly. Indeed. The leader, Sir God Nyo Ben, was a big monster with bull bloodline. He had 4 heads and 8 arms and his body was lofty like a hill. He was as tall as a demon and he was a few hundred meters tall. It should be known that it was his real body and not an illusory Dharma form. Hence, it was definitely terrifying. The lumps on his body gave out a black iron-like luster. He shook the blood demon steel trident in his hand. The sound was like rolling thunder and it shattered the rules of the void. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Thunder dragons that were thousands of meters long flashed in the sky. What I want is Lin Daya. It has nothing to do with the Nine Mysteries sect. As long as you are willing to retreat, I am willing to let Li go. As long as Fairy Qingjue signs a spiritual contract with me. Holy Maiden! Don't leave me behind. Lin Dyer trembled in fear and tears streamed down her face. She was just an assessment disciple of the Nine Mysteries sect and had not officially joined the sect. The Nine Mysteries sect was located at the top of the Saint Origin world. They selected disciples from many empires, not just the Eastern Empire. In the Nine Mysteries sect, there were at least 8,000 disciples with aptitude like hers. It was as vast as the sea. Fairy Qingjue would most likely agree to Sir God Nyo Ben's condition. Dyer, don't be silly. If you insist, neither of us will be able to escape. Also, you can see that they have held us hostage for a long time but did not kill us. Obviously, they are using you as bait to lure your father to rescue us. Li Yichen immediately reprimanded. Li Yichen, I'm so devoted to you that I'm pregnant with your child. Hearing this, Lin Dai stood there in disbelief, suddenly struggling madly and wailing loudly. Li Yichen clearly meant that he did not care about his own life and only wanted to live alone. She could not believe that Li Yichen, who was elegant and aloof in the past, was so cowardly when he was about to die. Stop arguing, you two. To retreat or to fight, can you decide? You were reckless and did not have the vigilance that cultivators should have. You wandered around and did not cultivate. Instead, you were captured by strong enemies, causing the sect to lose 20 nascent soul stage cultivators and 1 divinity transformation stage cultivator. Do you know shame? Fairy Qingjue shouted softly, looking disappointed and displeased. Disciple knows his mistake. Saintess, please calm down. Lin Dyer and Li Yichen glared at each other with hatred. However, he did not dare to speak any more nonsense. Fairy Qingjue looked at Sir God Nyo Ben, shook the divine weapon in her hand and said loudly, although the Nine Mysteries sect is not a top sanctuary, it is still one of the top 10 holy clans. However, there is a rule in the sect that I want you to know. Fellow Daoists, we must love each other and work together. If we encounter a strong enemy, we will never abandon our comrades. We only want to live and die together. We will never abandon our comrades. We only want to live and die together. We will never abandon our comrades. We only want to live and die together. The cultivators of the Nine Mysteries sect shouted loudly. The rolling sound waves shattered the sky and stirred up the clouds. It was as if they were tigers that could swallow tens of thousands of miles away. Although they were covered in blood, their eyes were still resolute. They were ready to risk their lives. 4 divinity transformation stage cultivators and hundreds of nascent soul stage cultivators all showed their Dharma forms. Flying swords, E-wood, windstorm, ice seal, thunderbolt. Many strange areas, forbidden zones, and many heavenly lords and sir-gods surrounded the demon clan cultivators. Li Chen pounded his chest and stamped his feet. He jumped up and down and begged, "Master, why are you so pedantic? Do you have to keep me here? I want to go back to the sect. Lin Dyer is just the daughter of a duke. With my qualifications and identity, I can take as many as I want. Why do you care about her?" "Li Chen, you are shameless." When Lin Dyer heard this, she was so depressed that she almost vomited blood. "Fairy Qingjue, you have forced me to do this. If you want to fight to the death, I am prepared." Sir God Niubai's 4 faces were furious. His 8 arms shook and his 4 mouths let out rolling thunder. He was obviously furious. As he spoke, he shook his hand and a divine weapon jar floated in front of him. He said in a low voice, "This is the demon imprisoning fairy jar left behind by the demon clan great sage in ancient times. You should recognize it. The demon imprisoning fairy jar. It is one of the 4 great treasures of the myriad demons' palace. It is not inferior to the demon vanquishing blade." For the first time, a look of deep fear appeared on Fairy Qingjue's eternally unmoving face, which was like an ancient glacier. However, she returned to normal immediately and sneered, "This treasure has been through a long period of time. More than half of its magic power has been wiped out by the precepts and great Daoists. It is said that it no longer has the devouring function. Jishuan Holy Lady, you are indeed knowledgeable. Among the successors of the Holy Lands and Holy Sects, other than Gu Xian, who is better than you in terms of alchemy skills, the rest are far behind you." Sir God Niubai did not hide anything. Instead, he said with a sincere smile, "Indeed. This item no longer has the devouring function, but its magic power is still there. The most important thing is, do you know what is being imprisoned in here? What a ferocious demonic creature." Fairy Qingjue frowned and looked carefully. She saw that the demon imprisoning fairy jar was trembling and buzzing. It expanded and contracted at times as though it was about to explode. The inscribed Dao patterns and talisman arrays were sometimes bright and sometimes dim. That was because the magic power was unstable. There were also traces of dense devil chi rippling out. "What is that sound? A dragon?" Moreover, as a majestic voice that could not be described with words penetrated the jar, her divine sense sensed that she was trembling from the depths of her soul. The voice shook her so much that her divine sense was unsteady. Her eyes were glazed over and she had the urge to crawl on the ground. She could not care about anything else. "Jishuan Holy Lady, you are so knowledgeable." Sir God Niubai praised and said, "This is a quasi-true dragon named Decimating Abyss. It was once a half-saint. It was contaminated by devil chi in the critical canyon and wreaked havoc for an era. It devoured 800 divine transformation realm cultivators, 9,000 nascent soul realm cultivators, and billions of lives. It wreaked havoc in the entire saint origin world and no one could stop it." Decimating Abyss. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Even the Duke of Eastern Canyon, the 4 foreign dignitaries, and Fairy Qingjue's expression changed. Chapter 1916. This was because the Decimating Abyss was indeed a ferocious demonic beast in the Saint Origin world. However, it had been annihilated in the long river of history. 3,000 years ago, in the era when the human race and the demon race existed side by side, Qin Pei, a half-saint almighty of the demon race, joined forces with many other almighties to create the demon imprisoning immortal jar with the help of the ancient star-swallowing stone. After 500 years of hard work, they set up 81 peerless divine formations to imprison this evil dragon. Unfortunately, Qin Pei died in the hands of the Eastern royal family. Sir God Niuben laughed bitterly as he spoke. He looked very sad and angry. The imperial court is more dangerous than the underworld. The emperor is more vicious and cruel than a demon god. I can only feel deeply sorry for this. Fairy Qingjue laughed bitterly and stayed out of the matter. She did not comment on the conflict between the Eastern Empire and the demon race. Yes, this has nothing to do with the Nine Mysteries sect. Moreover, It has been so long. I won't talk about this anymore. Sir God Nyo Ben laughed and said, however, the decimating abyss demonic dragon was already contaminated by the demonic qi. However, the demonic qi did not destroy him. I don't know how he comprehended the Tao of coexistence with the demonic qi. In short, his body, laws, realm, and even his deity contained the demonic qi. However, the demonic qi could resist and even destroy the magical power of the demon imprisoning fairy jar. As soon as this was said, everyone's expression changed drastically. What? Does this mean that the decimating abyss demonic dragon is still alive? Fairy Qingjue's heart skipped a beat. Sir God Nyo Ben said proudly, Fairy, if you don't believe me, I can show you. Fairy Qingjue exclaimed and reached out to stop him. However, Sir God Nyo Ben had already moved. He grabbed the lid of the jar with his right hand and his face turned red. It seemed that he had used all his strength to move the lid a little bit. Swoosh! A claw that was covered with scales reached out from the gap. It was very small at first, like a lizard's claw. Then, it suddenly expanded and tore the space apart at a speed faster than lightning. In an instant, it had reached the head of a 9 Mysteries sect divine transformation realm elder. At this moment, the dragon claw had a radius of 10 miles. It covered the sky and the sun with demonic qi. The expression of the elder from the 9 Mysteries sect changed drastically. His divinity howled towards the heavens, emitting a strange metallic sound. His divinity was condensed from the Tao of sabers, and its outer appearance was also formed from many strange-looking divine sabers. It looked like a warrior from the future, a war god from the divine world, flickering with a metallic luster. The deity suddenly appeared and soared into the sky, turning into thousands of heavenly blades that slashed toward the dragon claw. At the same time, the dozens of Tao artifacts on his body, both for defense and offense, turned into streaks of light that soared into the sky and charged over. But all of this was useless. At that moment, it was as if the sky had collapsed and the earth had sunk. The sun and the moon were hanging upside down. Countless heavenly swords were shattered, and the gods of swords suddenly collapsed. Dozens of Tao artifacts were like a string of firecrackers that had been ignited. They exploded rapidly, and huge mushroom clouds rose in the sky. Like an eagle catching a chick, the dragon's claw easily caught the elder of the 9 Mysteries sect. The dragon's claw rapidly contracted, and the elder was pulled into the clay jar as well. Save me! The blood-curdling screams of the elder from the 9 Mysteries sect rang out, but the screams stopped abruptly as the devil imprisoning immortal jar fell into a state of silence. Everyone was dumbfounded. Many elders, hall masters, and disciples of the 9 Mysteries sect were sweating profusely. It's too powerful. Even Fairy Qingjue was frightened. When the decimating abyss demonic dragon attacked, Fairy Qingjue and the other elders had used their best skills and released their best Dharma treasures. These attacks were powerful enough to flatten mountains and penetrate the earth, but they still couldn't stop the decimating abyss demonic dragon. They didn't even manage to break the tiniest of scales. If the decimating abyss demonic dragon is really released, everyone will die. Fairy Qingjue's face was solemn, and she didn't doubt it at all. Although the demonic dragon was at the Sage-to-Be realm back then, it was obviously used and raised by Sir God Nyo Ben and the others. Who knew how many lords of heaven and gods it had devoured? Its cultivation level might have increased instead of decreasing. Most importantly, it had the bloodline of the real dragon, which was born with superpower and unpredictable changes. Moreover, it was tainted with demonic qi that could erase and pollute the dharma power of ordinary human cultivators, increasing its strength even more. I've read ancient records. The real dragon's bloodline has many changes. The real dragon's 9 changes is rumored to have 81 changes. It can be big or small, invisible or visible. It can fly into the sky, swim in the deep sea, hide in the abyss, and see the dragon in the field. It can summon clouds and rain, burn the sky with fire, control wind and thunder, and make sweet dew. I didn't believe it at first, but after seeing it today, the ancients didn't lie to me. Far away, the Duke of Eastern Gorge's eyes were trembling and his eyes were filled with fear. Terrifying. It's too powerful. The Duke of Eastern Gorge and the other alien elders were worried. Sir God Nyoben had only released a crack that was as small as a finger, and the decimating abyss demonic dragon had reached out with its claws. Its speed was so fast that it was like a white steed flitting across a gap. Its movements were so smooth and natural that it was impossible to trace. Cultivators could also use their Dharma idols and supernatural powers to transform. However, they would need a cultivation technique to activate it. They would even need to form hand seals and chant incantations. The fastest way to do it was to form a technique with a single thought. However, it was impossible for someone like him to do it so instinctively and naturally. If they were to go against the decimating abyss demonic dragon, they would only end up dead. At the thought of that, many cultivators, including the Duke of Eastern Gorge, opened their forbidden zones and domains and released their Dharma treasures to protect themselves so that they wouldn't be affected in the upcoming battle. The battlefield soon fell into a deathly silence that made one's heart palpitate. Creak, creak, patter, slurp. Only the sound of teeth rubbing against bones, muscles and flesh, bone marrow, brain and blood could be heard. It made everyone's scalp go numb and their hearts almost exploded. It was obvious that the decimating abyss demonic dragon was devouring the elder. "Meat, there's some wood. He's too old." The voice of the decimating abyss demonic dragon could be heard from the crack. It was old and hoarse, as though it was the whisper of a demon from the depths of hell. It had a tinge of greed. "Niu Ben, that little girl has a high cultivation level and she's smooth, tender, and moist. She must taste good. Let me out and I'll eat her for you. Senior, the 9 Mysteries sect shouldn't be offended. I'll find a few more tender ones for you to eat later." Sir God Nyoben chuckled and covered the lid completely. Only then did the terrifying voice stop. Sir God Nyoben shook his sleeves and laughed in high spirits. "Fairy Qingjue, if you don't know when to back down and insist on tangling with us, I'll really release the demonic dragon." Fairy Qingjue pursed her lips and didn't say anything. She frowned slightly as though she was thinking of a countermeasure. "I imprisoned Lin Dyer just to lure an expert here and kill him together. It has nothing to do with the 9 Mysteries sect," Sir God Nyoben said in a muffled voice. "I also know that the 9 Mysteries sect's rule is to unite as one and never abandon a comrade. I'll take a step back and make a deal. In order to lure you into the trap, we have to imprison Lin Dyer no matter what. However, she's not our target after all. As long as we kill our target, we'll immediately return this girl and Li to you. What do you think? Saintus, this is the only way. This demonic dragon is too ferocious. It can kill a divine transformation realm cultivator with a flick of its finger. If we attack by force, we'll definitely suffer great losses. I'm afraid we can only have a chance of winning if we ask the sect leader to help us. We don't have any enmity with the Myriad Demons Palace. Why do we have to make enemies?" For a moment, many elders and disciples of the 9 Mysteries sect were communicating with Fairy Qingjue through consciousness transmission. "All right, I hope you'll keep your promise," Fairy Qingjue said in a low voice as she clenched her silver teeth. Suddenly, the sky fell and the earth cracked. A figure fell from the sky like a meteorite, causing the ground to collapse and the mountain peaks to sway. A voice that was as imposing as a dragon could be heard. "Fairy Qingjue, I'll help you kill this demonic dragon. I wonder if you're willing to discuss the great way of dual cultivation with me and ascend to nirvana together?" Chapter 1917. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. Countless gazes descended onto Jiang Tian in unison, and they were filled with disbelief as if they were looking at a madman. Who is he? How dare he provoke the abyssal demon dragon and the mighty of the Myriad Demons Palace? Dan Qingsheng looked at the figure in the billowing dust in disbelief, as if he was looking at a madman. He didn't just provoke the abyssal demon dragon and Sir God Nyoben. He offended the Myriad Demons Palace and Fairy Qingju. The Duke of Eastern Gorge did not know whether to laugh or cry. He seems to be just a nascent soul realm cultivator. Is he tired of living? Huang Zhonggong chuckled. The so-called discussion of the great Tao of dual cultivation and ascending to paradise together was extremely frivolous. It would be fine if you said that to an ordinary female cultivator. After all, you were a nascent soul realm heavenly lord. She could do nothing but tolerate it. But now, you were flirting with the holy maiden of the Nine Mysteries sect. In short, even if Eastern Lu was here, he would not dare to talk nonsense. Otherwise, the Nine Mysteries sect would be infuriated and the country would be destroyed. Moreover, you were just a nascent soul realm cultivator. He must be a lunatic who entered this place by mistake. Let's ignore him. Bald Bewing said with a smile. At this moment, when the smoke and dust dispersed, they could already see Jiang Tian's figure. His hair was draped over his shoulders, and a messy white beard covered his face. His clothes were ragged and dirty, and his eyes were filled with madness. He was a standard old lunatic. Lunatic, get out of here. Lin Dai was so angry that she danced and cursed. Originally, the myriad demons palace wanted to lure someone over. After killing that person, they would release themselves. It was a very simple thing. Now that this lunatic had interfered, Sir God Nyoben and the others might really release the demon dragon. By then everyone would die. Ha, stupid human. You overestimate yourself. Sure enough, Sir God Nyoben was so angry that he laughed. He shouted coldly, "How dare you provoke the guardian demon dragon of the myriad demons palace? You are just a nascent soul realm heavenly lord. I can kill you with a flick of my finger." This person actually destroyed the nest of the demonic beasts so quickly? And it's so fast? When Fairy Qingjue saw Jiang Tian, she was shocked again. But he immediately shook his head. This strange man did have some strength, but it was still impossible for him to defeat the demonic dragon, who was in the half-saint realm. It was like a fantasy story. However, Fairy Qingju didn't dwell on the matter. She looked at Sir God Nyoben and said, "He's just an irrelevant person. Sir God, why waste your time on him? I just don't know when the target you are waiting for will arrive. 1 day for the fastest, 3 days for the slowest." Sir God Nyoben reigned in his anger and pondered for a while. 3 days. Fairy Qingjue thought to herself that it wasn't too long, so she could still accept it. Lin Dyer also heaved a sigh of relief. She only needed 3 days to regain her freedom. "Everyone, let's take a break," Fairy Qingjue instructed. "Yes, Saintess." After that, the cultivators of the Nine Mysteries sect landed on the ground one after another. They swallowed elixirs and sat down cross-legged to heal their injuries. Fairy Qingjue was the only one left in the sky. This was a bitter battle, and many people were injured. "It's the same for us." Sir God Nyoben's eyes flickered and he sent a message with his consciousness. "Jiang Xiqing is unfathomable. We have to maintain our best condition and kill her in one blow." Then, the cultivators of the Myriad Demons Palace landed on the ground to take a break. Fairy Qingjue then waved her hand and set up a halo to separate the two parties. "This will be the boundary of the truce. You and I are not allowed to enter each other's area and disturb each other. Otherwise, it will be considered a declaration of war." "Okay." Sir God Nyoben nodded. Both parties stopped fighting and made peace. Within a 100-mile radius, it was quiet. The murderous and bloody aura that shrouded the 100 Flowers Peak faded instantly. "Sir God Nyoben, didn't the decimating abyss eat the almighty of the demon clan, Qin Yuan? And even your Laozu? How did such a huge grudge become your palace protecting demon dragon? This is almost the same as acknowledging a thief as your father. I didn't expect the demon clan to be so shameless. This is ridiculous." In the silence, Jiang Tian's voice was suddenly heard again with a mocking look in his eyes. "Wow, I'm so pissed off. What do you know? How can a nascent soul heavenly lord like you interfere in the affairs of the Myriad Demons Palace?" Nyoben was simply exasperated when he heard this. His 4 faces warped ferociously at the same time while his 8 nostrils sprayed out strands of flames, cold air, azure lightning, and lightning at the same time, and they incinerated the group of mountains and frozen area of 50 kilometers. The earth quaked and the mountains shook as various phenomena appeared, and their imposing auras shook the heavens and the earth. "You arrogant bastard! Kill him!" Bastard! Not just him, all the cultivators of the demon race were infuriated. They all stopped treating their wounds and soared into the sky like supersonic fighters, crossing the boundary of the truce and surrounding Jiang Tian from all directions. They were all gnashing their teeth in fury, as if they could not wait to mince Jiang Tian into pieces to vent their anger. Don't expose people's shortcomings and don't hit their faces. But Jiang Tian's words were like slaps to their faces. In fact, the demon clan overlords were indeed unable to kill the decimating abyss demonic dragon after imprisoning it. They had no choice but to keep the decimating abyss demonic dragon as their weapon of mass destruction. But they had indeed forgotten their ancestors and couldn't distinguish between kindness and hatred. This crazy nascent soul heavenly lord deserves to die. Lin Dai thought angrily. However, when the cultivators of the demon clan were about to attack Jiang Tian, prepare for battle. Array! Clang, 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 clang. The cultivators of the Nine Mysteries sect acted as if they were facing a great enemy. They took out their flying swords and magic treasures, and floated up into the air to form battle formations. The atmosphere became tense once again. Fairy Qingju's face was cold and her eyes were cold. She said coldly, "Sir God Nyoben, you have crossed the line. Please return." Then, the cultivators of the Myriad Demons Palace realized that Jiang Tian was on the side of the boundary of the Nine Mysteries sect, and the cultivators of the demon clan had indeed crossed the boundary. The Myriad Demons Palace and the Nine Mysteries sect had entered the attack range of each other. Fairy, friends of the Nine Mysteries sect, don't be nervous. It's just that this crazy cultivator has messed up the situation. Listen to my command and retreat. Immortal Lord Nyoben laughed and ordered the cultivators of the Myriad Demons Palace to retreat while suppressing his anger towards Jiang Tian. Swoosh, swoosh. The cultivators of the Myriad Demons Palace retreated while the cultivators of the Nine Mysteries sect heaved a sigh of relief. Only then did they realize that they were sweating profusely. In an instant, the cultivators of the Nine Mysteries sect glared at Jiang Tian. It was too dangerous just now. Both sides had entered the attack range of each other. If any of the cultivators had a weak Daoist heart and attacked the enemy in a panic, it would trigger a huge battle and the casualties would be immeasurable. Bastard! Don't create any more problems. Otherwise, I'll kill you first when I regain my freedom. If you want to die, don't drag us down with you. Li Yichen shouted in exasperation. Chapter 1918. Li Yichen was almost scared to death. Originally, the Nine Mysteries sect was not targeting Lin Dyer or the Nine Mysteries sect. They were targeting someone behind Lin Dyer. However, the Nine Mysteries sect and the Myriad Demons Palace each had their own principles. In order to avoid losses, they had reached an agreement and the matter had been settled. Unexpectedly, this kid provoked Nyoben's anger with just a few words and almost caused a fire to break out. Lin Dyer was so scared that her legs trembled and her face turned pale. She did not dare to imagine how terrifying the situation would have been if the battle had broken out, especially when Sir God Nyoben had released the demonic dragon. Fairy Qingjue was also a little annoyed. She stared at Jiang Tian and scolded, "Fellow cultivator Feng, don't make trouble. This is not a place for you to stay. Leave quickly so as not to be implicated. Otherwise, I'll kill you." How do you know that this is not a place for me to stay? Sir God Nyoben has been waiting for me, Jiang Xiqing. Jiang Tian laughed and suddenly performed the creation mysterious skill. His messy hair turned into a waterfall of black hair and his messy beard fluttered in the wind. He turned into the image of Jiang Tian. His facial features were well defined and his eyes were deep and pale. His aura was vague and there were silver strands on his temples. Even though his clothes were shabby, it was still difficult to conceal his strange charm. Well, he is Jiang Xiqing. The Duke of Eastern Gorge's face froze and his eyes shone brightly. His pupils suddenly contracted to the size of a needle tip. I heard that Jiang Xiqing is a man of strategy. He has always been careful and meticulous. How could he be so reckless? The 4 foreign dignitaries of the Duke of Eastern Gorge's mansion were also puzzled and could not believe it. Isn't he courting death? If he wants to save someone, he should be well prepared. He should join forces with Fang Jinlong and other friendly dukes to crush them together or set up an ambush secretly to avoid their attacks. Now, he seems to have fallen into a trap. Sure, Fuozi frowned and thought hard. He could not understand. That's right. With such a strategy, how did Lin Hanqing manage to turn the tables around? How did he manage to turn danger into safety? How did he manage to suppress the purple marquis? Dan Qingxing was also puzzled, smiling bitterly. Upon hearing these words and thinking back to Jiang Tian's actions, the Eastern Gorge Duke couldn't help but feel greatly disappointed. He said, I originally thought that he was an extraordinary person and that I needed to rely on him. Now, it seems that the rumors about Jiang Xiqing were exaggerated. That's right, Jiang Xiqing. Seeing that it was Jiang Xiqing, the guest of the Lin mansion, many cultivators had different expressions on their faces. The atmosphere instantly became tense. So he changed his appearance. Lin De suddenly understood, and then she was furious, gnashing her teeth, and scolding him harshly, Bastard! I order you to step back and call my father over. Also, report this to Uncle Fang Jinlong. Just now, you repeatedly put me in danger. Could it be on purpose? If this matter is settled, I will definitely report it to my father and expel you from the family. In her opinion, Sir God Niu Ben had taken so much trouble to kidnap her with so many Sir Gods of the monster clan. With such great fanfare and far-reaching planning, their target must be a powerful figure like Fang Jinlong or the ancestor of the Lin family, or even an expert of the royal family. Jiang Tian was just a guest of the Lin family. How could he be worthy of Sir God Niu Ben's planning? To put it bluntly, he was not qualified. A mere guest of the Lin family dares to provoke so many Sir Gods of the Myriad Demons Palace? Are you courting death? Get out! Li Yichen also shouted. Jiang Tian paid no attention to them at all. Instead, he flew toward the group of Myriad Demons Palace unhurriedly. He looked at Fairy Qingjue calmly and said with a smug, hideous smile, Fairy, I'll help you kill these powerful experts of the demon race and save your 2 useless disciples. Why don't you accompany me to listen to some songs and drink a few cups of fine wine? This condition is not good, right? Are you crazy? Fairy Qingjue shouted angrily. Many cultivators of the 9 Mysteries sect also looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at an idiot. Oh my God! Is he really going to fight alone? The Duke of Eastern Gorge and the others almost went crazy. They were completely stunned. A nascent soul heavenly lord wanted to fight against a Sir God of the monster clan. Moreover, he had a notorious ancient demon dragon with him. Even the Holy Virgin of the 9 Mysteries sect did not dare to fight against him. Was he not courting death? Ha, so you are Jiang Xiqing. You are finally here. Come and accept your death. Sir God Niu Ben's 4 faces were filled with anger. His 4 mouths roared together and his eyes were cold and murderous. What? So, Sir God Niu Ben was waiting for him. Is it necessary for the Myriad Demons Palace to do this? Wouldn't it be better to just kill him? Why did they have to kidnap Lin Dyer and involve Li Yichen and the 9 Mysteries sect? They have suffered heavy casualties. No wonder Sir God Niu Ben is so angry. Yes. He only wanted to kill a nascent soul heavenly lord, but he ran into the Holy Virgin of the 9 Mysteries sect. He lost dozens of nascent soul heavenly lords and a divine transformation realm cultivator. How could he not be angry? At this moment, the cultivators of the 9 Mysteries sect and the Duke of Eastern Gorge's mansion were enlightened and shocked. At this moment, the gazes of all the experts gathered and landed on Jiang Tian. Their gazes were filled with pity. Li Yichen could not hide his gloating. Apparently, no one thought that Jiang Tian could be a match for Sir God Niu Ben, who had a strong body and dominated the entire Eastern Empire. Especially Li Yichen. Although Jiang Tian acted crazily, he was extremely domineering and brave. He even dared to face the Myriad Demons Palace. In comparison, Li Yichen, who had been captured by the Myriad Demons Palace and cried for his parents, was unbearable. He hoped that Jiang Tian would be killed so that he would not be so incompetent. So, he is the one they were waiting for. Lin Dyer could not believe it at first. I thought it was Uncle Fang Jinlong or my patriarch. Is he more important than Uncle Fang Jinlong or my patriarch in the eyes of the myriad demons' palace? Anyway, he is just a foreign elder in the nascent soul realm. He deserves to die. But immediately she relaxed and gloated. She did not like Jiang Tian's personality. Besides, she did not think that Jiang Tian was valuable. He was just a nascent soul realm cultivator. So what if he died? Then she shouted, Jiang Xiqing, how did you offend the myriad demons' palace? You are courting death. Why don't you kneel down and admit your mistake and ask for punishment? Sir God Nyo Ben, you have found your target. Let me go first. Li Yichen shouted directly, I'll rather die than you. Put the green thunder talisman on them and ask them to get lost. Sir God Nyo Ben said with a hideous smile, Friends from the Nine Mysteries sect, don't interfere. Our target is not the Nine Mysteries sect. After killing this guy, you can remove the green thunder jade talisman. Let's have a taste of Jiang Xiqing's divine sense. His target was Jiang Tian. If the Nine Mysteries sect or the Duke of the Eastern Canyon attacked him, he would not be afraid of them. But with so many forces, he would not be able to defeat them. However, he had a backup plan. The Green Thunder Talisman was one of the most precious treasures of the Myriad Demon's Palace. It could explode with a thought and could easily kill an early Divine Transformation Realm cultivator. In this way, the Nine Mysteries sect would not dare to help Jiang Tian against the Myriad Demon's Palace and would be restrained by others. Lin Dyer and Li Chen felt as if they had been pardoned and ran away. Anyway, in their eyes, Jiang Tian was just an irrelevant person. They did not care if he died. When they were imprisoned by Sir God Nyo Ben and the others, their lives were in danger. The feeling of being controlled was worse than death. If they did not leave now, when would they leave? Chapter 1919. Saintus, we have escaped. Let's go. Li Yichen and Lin Dai came before Fairy Qingjue and begged with a bow. Slap, slap. Fairy Qingjue raised her hand and rewarded the two of them with 2 slaps each, causing blood to spurt out from their noses. She sternly scolded, Ignorant and brainless idiot. Do you know how much loss you have brought to the sect by going on a trip without permission? 2 elders in Divine Transformation Realm and more than 20 lords of heaven in Yuaning Realm are dead. Wait for the sect to punish you. Yes, I know my mistake. Li Yichen's face was full of shame. He was so scared that he trembled and said yes repeatedly. I will reflect on myself and change. I will never do it again. Although Lin Dai admitted defeat, she was not convinced. Jiang Xiqing offended the Myriad Monsters Palace. That was why they kidnapped us and used us as bait. Plus, Jiang Xiqing insulted you again and again. How arrogant! You should have killed Jiang Xiqing. Old Nyo, you seem to be one of the 4 guardians of the Myriad Monsters Palace like Sir God Qiling. You have a close relationship with each other? Jiang Tian suddenly asked in a teasing tone. How do you know Sir God Qiling? No, you were attracted by Lin Dai's kidnapping and left Lin Hanqing to the Duke of Eastern Canyon's territory. You shouldn't have seen him. Sir God Nyo Ben was suspicious and thoughts came to his mind. Are you here to die? You should feel honored to die in my hands. Very soon, Sir God Nyo Ben got rid of the distracting thoughts and looked at Jiang Tian with hatred. He was furious and his murderous intent was overwhelming. Die for you. To be honest, Sir God Qiling has been killed by me. And you can't wait to meet Sir God Qiling in hell? All right, I will fulfill your wish. Jiang Tian was the condensation of Jiang Tian's evil thoughts. He was extremely vain and arrogant. He loved to show off in front of people and flaunt his achievements. Qiling was clearly killed by Jiang Tian's original body, Jiang Tian, but Jiang Tian still put the blame on him. This is impossible. Sir God Nyo Ben's face changed and he couldn't believe it. At that moment, another god monarch suddenly cried out in shock. Old bull, I don't know when Qiling's soul tablet has already extinguished. Moreover, it was extinguished an hour ago, but he actually rushed here from the southern border. This speed is too terrifying. So strong? It can't be. He killed Sir God Qiling and traversed the entire empire in an hour. His speed is terrifying. Gasps could be heard from the audience. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. Even Fairy Qingjue's peerlessly beautiful face revealed a hint of shock as her beautiful eyes widened. She couldn't do it at this speed. That's right, I killed him. Furthermore, it only took me 1 hour to get here from the Red Rock Basin. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Am I very strong? Jiang Tian was extremely pleased with himself. He then looked at Fairy Qingjue, who was in the outer circle, and said with a smile, Saintess, since ancient times, beautiful women have always been paired with heroes. I'm that strong. In this world, only a peerless expert like me is worthy of you. Don't feel inferior. Pluck up your courage and dual cultivate with me. You're about to die and you're still in the mood to talk nonsense. Fairy Qingjue sneered and berated, think about how to get out of here. Piece of cake. I can kill such a small fry with a lift of my hand. Jiang Tian was still confused. He suddenly smiled and said, Oh, I'm sorry. Are you concerned about me? Do you admire me already? Damn it, I have nowhere to put my charm. It's too easy for people to fall in love with me. However, it's not because you're frivolous. It's because my charm is too strong. Fanatic. Fletcher. Fairy Qingjue was so angry that her teeth were itching. She wished she could raise her hand and slap Jiang Tian. However, on second thought, he was about to die and she didn't care anymore. I can't accept the title of fanatic. I'm too perfect. My only flaw is that I'm too humble. Jiang Tian said seriously, if we become dual cultivation partners, you have to be more tolerant of this. After all, no one is perfect. Lecture? That's even more ridiculous. Countless saintesses and fairies have pursued me, but I, Jiang Xiqing, how dare you kill my close friend? Today, not only will I tear you into pieces, I'll also kill Lin Hanqing's family. I'll also rush to your home planet, exterminate your family and destroy your home planet. Sir God Niuben was in tears. When he saw that Jian Wushuang only cared about teasing Fairy Qingjue and ignored his existence, he couldn't help but roar in anger. Guardian Niuben, there's no need for you to kill him. I don't believe that a mere nascent soul realm cultivator can kill Sir God Qiling. I'm willing to enforce the law on your behalf and kill him. At that moment, a Sir God from the monster clan, who had the bloodline of the evil wolf, stepped out from the crowd with a hideous smile. Alright, Sir God Qinlang, kill him. Sir God Niuben roared angrily. Although Sir God Qinlang was slightly weaker than Niuben and Qiling, he was one of the 10 Sir Gods in the pantheon of monsters. His body was strong and his divine powers were unpredictable. Back then, he had sneak attacked the palace in the imperial city and severely injured a few members of the royal family. Even when he was besieged by a few divine transformation realm cultivators and hundreds of nascent soul realm cultivators, he was still able to talk and escape unscathed. However, Sir God Niuben didn't know Jiang Tian's background and he was still worried. He raised his hand and pointed at another Sir God from the monster clan. He said coldly, Sir God Catching Moon, this guy is evil. You can join him. Yes, Protector. The moon-catching divine lord had a grotesque appearance. He had 8 thin and long arms that resembled dried branches and bamboo joints. His stomach was perfectly round, as though he was pregnant for 10 months. His entire body was covered in black fur and his face was extremely ugly. However, no one dared to belittle him. He had the bloodline of the heavenly web spider. It took him 500 years to form the monster core. It took him 1,000 years to reach the nascent soul realm and 3,000 years to become a god in the human world. His bloodline was special and he was talented. He was a kind of fierce insect that was famous in the Saint Origin world. He was an ancient mutated species that could spit out the heavenly web. The web was extremely tough and it was difficult for sharp weapons to cut it. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that even an ordinary heavenly web spider was a headache for the cultivators, let alone a divine transformation realm cultivator. He had already formed the rules of heavenly web and the great Tao. He was said to be able to catch the moon, refine stars, and break the moon. He was extremely fierce and terrifying. "Kid, you deserve to die." Sir God Catching Moon turned his head and stared at Jiang Tian fiercely as he said coldly. Boom! Two earth-shattering auras suddenly burst out and rushed toward Jiang Tian. Although the rules of Dao in the Saint Origin world were more condensed and the great Dao was as heavy as a mountain, the cultivator's power was suppressed 10 times or even 100 times. But when the two divine emperors attacked together, their power was still earth-shattering. Two divine rays of light that were like flowing lights suddenly shot towards Jiang Tian. The earth quaked while the laws of the heavens and the earth were torn apart, and it erupted with waves of lightning and rumbling that caused one's ears to ring and one's heart to thump. Sir God Brutal Wolf tore the sky apart with a bronze mace. Meanwhile, the moon-capturing divine monarch flew to the sky above Jiang Tian. He waved his 8 arms and flicked them. A giant net with a radius of at least 10 miles flew towards Jiang Tian. "Oh my, he's so ruthless. Is he trying to embarrass me in front of my baby Qingjue?" Jiang Tian was in a hurry and he was shocked. He didn't expect this at all. However, when the two divine rainbows were less than a mile away from him, Sir God Nyo Ben revealed a complacent and sinister smile as if he was about to take his revenge. Many cultivators of the demon clan were certain that the mission would be completed and they would be praised by Demon Emperor Han Guang. As for Fairy Qingjue, her face was filled with pity and disappointment. Clang! Jiang Tian suddenly attacked. Chapter 1920. Vanishing with Jiang Tian was simple and direct. He punched out, and the aura of primal chaos filled the area within 10 miles. He punched out boldly, and a violent wave swept out, destroying everything in its path. Eternal Universe Divine Fist, army breaking, shattering all. This fist technique was originally peerlessly ferocious, and it was bold and unstoppable. In the hands of Jiang Tian, who was filled with a ferocious and brutal aura, the might it exerted was instead even stronger than the true body. The passing Mi Jiang Tian broke a bronze mace that came from the left. The chaotic fist mark broke the space and rushed towards Sir God Immortal Wolf. As for the giant net, it was torn to shreds by the fist force. The moon-catching divine sovereign was blown into the air like a scarecrow by the wind created by the fist force. Poof! The two divine emperors of the monster clan vomited blood and were seriously injured by the passing Mi Jiang Tian. How is that possible? Sir God Nyo Ben widened his eyes in disbelief. The pantheon of monsters had carried out a thorough investigation on Jiang Tian and collected all kinds of information. They certainly knew that Jiang Tian was strong, but he was only in the nascent soul realm after all. He couldn't be stronger and was still a distance away from the real soul formation realm. Compared to the giants of the pantheon of demons, the gap between them was like night and day. They had never thought that Jiang Tian could defeat a grand divine emperor who was at a higher level. What? Lin Dyer also couldn't believe it, as if she had seen a ghost. She had never thought that Jiang Tian, a cultivator from outside the galaxy, could be so powerful. No wonder he's so arrogant and ignores everything. It turns out that he really has that ability. No wonder Sir God Nyo Ben and the others treat him as a mortal enemy. I'm afraid he's even more powerful than our ancestral patriarch, Uncle Fang Jinlong. No wonder my father thinks so highly of him and even wants me to marry him. How can Li Yichen compare to him? She suddenly came to a realization, and a faint sense of remorse gradually filled her heart. He's really a genius. He's not just a prodigy, he's a monster. Many cultivators from the Nine Mysteries sect had originally looked down on Jiang Tian, especially after Jiang Tian had repeatedly molested the saintess, Qinju. This made them feel even more indignant towards Jiang Tian. If it weren't for the strict rules of the Nine Mysteries sect, which required them to obey the orders of the Holy Maiden and not kill people as they pleased, they would have already killed Jiang Tian. But at this moment, seeing how powerful Jiang Tian was, their mentality changed rapidly. This kind of genius naturally had the capital to disregard everything. This kind of talented person, if the sect leader saw him, he would probably have the heart to cherish his talent and recruit him. So strong. Fairy Qingjue also seemed to be seeing Jiang Tian for the first time. She covered her mouth with her jade-like hands and was extremely shocked. Over the years, the most talented young man she had seen should be her disciple, Li Chen. However, compared with Jiang Tian, Li Chen was immediately overshadowed. He paled in comparison and was not worth mentioning at all. Great enemy, this is a great enemy of life and death. Looking at the admiring expression of the Saintess and Lin Dyer's shocked and slightly regretful expression, Li Yichen was alarmed and felt an unprecedented sense of vigilance. If the Saintess, Qingju, recruited Jiang Tian into the Nine Mysteries sect, his position as the chief disciple of the Nine Mysteries sect would be immediately lost. He defeated 2 divine sovereigns of the demon clan with one punch. This world is crazy. The Duke of Eastern Gorge stood at the outermost periphery. The muscles on his cheeks were twitching and the corners of his eyes were trembling as if he had been slapped hard in the face. Lin Hanqing is too lucky to have the help of such a monster. The 4 foreign dignitaries of the Duke of Eastern Gorge's mansion were all shocked as if they had seen a ghost. Jiang Tian roared and punched out again. The world suddenly collapsed and decayed. The great ways and the Dharma were shattered. All kinds of thunder and lightning shot out in all directions. Terrifying cracks appeared on the ground like a grand canyon. Raging waves swept across the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Thunder, fire, storm, rain and snow were all different. Even the Duke of Eastern Gorge, who was far away, was thrown off his feet. The flood dragon under him trembled in fear and could not wait to turn around and run away. When the punch was thrown out, 2 fist wheels with a radius of 100 feet appeared. Chaotic chi lingered and dazzled. They were like 2 grand suns in the sky, tearing the void and rushing toward the 2. The 2 divine sovereigns, Residual Wolf and Catching Moon, roared crazily and used all kinds of secret magic skills. They even hurriedly took out their natal Daoist artifacts to resist. The 2 divine sovereigns of the demon clan were mighty figures with brilliant battle records and unpredictable magic skills. They were not weaker than the giants of the empire like Fang Jinlong and Elder Princess Mou. However, under Jiang Tian's punch, they could not withstand a single blow. Bang! Boom! With 2 consecutive earth-shattering noises, half of the residual wolf's body, which seemed to be made of copper and iron, was blown up. Countless pieces of flesh rained down, blood mist filled the air, and broken bones and organs flew everywhere. Moon Seizing was even more miserable. His divine treasures were blasted through by a single fist, his deity body exploding. His entire body exploded. The 2 divine sovereigns of the demon clan were scared out of their wits. They tried to repair their deities and reform their bodies while flying away in fear. You want to run away? Isn't it too late? But Jiang Tian would not give them a chance. He stepped into the air and used the Kuan Peng at a high speed. He tore the void with his hands and performed a space secret art. He grabbed in the air and directly pulled the 2 deities out of their divine treasures. Bang! The corporeal bodies of the 2 completely exploded, turning into a rain of flesh that scattered down. Meanwhile, the god was directly smashed into pieces by passing me Jiang Tian. The 9 transformations divine disc behind him spun, and the apparition of Taotai turned into a black hole that devoured the essence, chi, and divine power contained in the god. In a blink, the 2 grand cultivators of the demon clan had died. He killed a soul formation cultivator with a snap of his fingers. Is he still human? In an instant, the entire place fell into a strange silence. Everyone was like a clay statue. They were motionless, but they were screaming in their hearts. Jiang Tian, you're so vicious. Everyone, let's kill him together. Suddenly, Sir God Nyo Ben roared and stepped into the air. He swung his 8 arms and closed in on Jiang Tian. Good. Fairy Qingju, I'll twist off his 4 ox heads and make a braised, steamed, fried and mixed ox head stew with thunder fire wine. Wouldn't it be delicious? Although I know you've been fasting for many years, we haven't become immortals. We still have to taste the delicacies of the mortal world and experience the atmosphere of the world. Jiang Tian laughed. He was domineering and didn't neglect to fight or flirt with girls. This person is extremely talented and powerful. But why is he so frivolous and senseless? Fairy Qingju snorted in her heart. She didn't hate him as much as before. Hi, you want to kill me? Who do you think you are? Do you really think you can compete with me after killing a few grand cultivators of the soul formation realm? Sir God Nyoben was so angry that he laughed. He looked down at Jiang Tian as if he was looking at an ant. Sir God Nyoben, why don't we stop and make peace? Fairy Qingjue was still in a daze. She only regained her senses when he called her. She took a step forward and laughed coquettishly. I know you want to kill Cultivator Jiang because of the internal disputes of the Eastern Empire. But as you can see, with such a talented person like Cultivator Jiang, you can't touch the mansion of Zhenyuan Marquis. Even the pantheon of demons can't touch the Eastern Empire. Cultivators of our generation should pursue Dao wholeheartedly. We should travel freely in the world and get rid of the barriers of the secular world. We should live a long life and be free. What's the point of taking down a secular country? While persuading Sir God Nyoben, she sent a message to Jiang Tian with her divine consciousness. Cultivator, you'd better stop now. Didn't you come here to rescue Lin Dai? She's already free. Why do you have to be so aggressive? If you push him too far, he'll release the abyssal demonic dragon and we'll all suffer. Chapter 1921. Saintess Qingju's persuasion was reasonable. With Jiang Tian's power, he might be on par with Sir God Nyoben. At least he could escape unscathed. But what Fairy Qingju was really afraid of was the abyssal demon dragon. Once it was released, not to mention Jiang Tian, even she wouldn't be able to resist it. Everyone could only be swallowed and killed. When Sir God Nyoben heard this, he was stunned and hesitated. After all, he wasn't sure if he could suppress Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian gave him an unfathomable feeling. If he were to release the abyssal demon dragon, it would be extremely dangerous. The demon dragon was ferocious and it might swallow them too. Lin Dai also understood the terror of the abyssal demon dragon. She put her hands on her hips and snorted, Mr. Jiang, come back immediately. Don't lose your life because of a moment of bravery. Our Lin family still needs your protection. Although she said it in a commanding tone, she called him Mr. Her words revealed her concern, worry, and reliance. She even sounded like she was acting coquettishly. As for whether she was acting coquettishly to an elder or a woman to a man, only she knew. Who do you think you are? Big-chested, brainless thing, poor aptitude and ugly. How dare you order me around? Jiang Tian was arrogant, willful, violent, and ferocious. He wasn't as gentle as the original body. Hearing this, he slapped Lin Dai to the ground. Moreover, this guy had always hated the original body, Jiang Tian. Besides venting his anger, he also wanted to leave a mess for the original body, Jiang Tian, to create trouble for him. You dare to hit me? How dare you? Lin Dai's nose was bleeding and her hair was disheveled. She was embarrassed and angry. She couldn't believe that her honored guest's temperament had changed so much. He turned against her and controlled her in front of everyone. If this spread out, how could she establish herself in the empire in the future? I'll beat you up for talking so much nonsense. If you dare to talk nonsense again, I'll kill you. Jiang Tian didn't care so much. He was extremely domineering and ruthless as he kicked her soft stomach, causing her to hold her stomach and vomit. You! Lin Dai originally wanted to refute, but when she saw Jiang Tian's crazy and ferocious eyes, she was so scared that she broke out in a cold sweat and shuddered, not daring to say another word. Li Chen did not dare to stop her from the beginning to the end. Jiang Xiqing could kill a soul formation cultivator with a wave of her hand. How could he, a half-step soul formation cultivator, be a match for her? Most importantly, Jiang Tian's actions were wild and unruly. He even dared to flirt with Saintess Qingjue, so he didn't dare to provoke him. Although Lin Dai is your junior, she is also a pre-selected disciple of our 9 Mystery sect. Mister, you should know when to stop. Saintess Qingjue persuaded. In fact, she also disliked Lin Dai. She was too brainless. Indeed, there was a difference between an alien minister and a master. But that was only for ordinary alien ministers. When the alien minister's cultivation was higher than the master had to be respectful to the alien minister and even had to greet him as a disciple. But Lin Dai dared to shout at Jiang Tian and put on airs as a young lady. She almost couldn't believe the stupidity of her actions. "I'll give Fairy Qingju a face and stop." Fortunately, Jiang Tian was extremely arrogant and didn't care about a small ant like Lin Dai. He didn't argue with her. "I tried to persuade you, but you didn't listen and even hit me. Then I'll let you die, you egomaniac." Thinking of this, Lin Dai's eyes flashed with indescribable resentment. She couldn't wait to cut Jiang Tian into pieces on the spot. Jiang Tian ignored Lin Dai and shook his sleeves. He looked at Sir God Nyoben and said with a smile, "I forgot you have a long worm. Let it out. I want to eat it. Have you eaten the battle of the dragon and tiger? It's a famous dish, an old cow and a big snake. It's so fresh." If the original Jiang Tian were to face such a situation, he definitely wouldn't be so crazy. However, Jiang Tian was just like that. I was either extremely cowardly or extremely arrogant. Then, he wanted to show off his skills in front of Fairy Qingju and show off his power. He had completely forgotten about the danger. "You're crazy." Fairy Qingju couldn't believe it and wanted to pull Jiang Tian back. How dare you bully me?" Sir God Nyoben was furious. He looked disdainfully and shouted, "You're full of nonsense. Let's see how arrogant you can be after I crush you." Before he had finished his words, he kicked the air and descended from the sky. His big foot quickly transformed into a big cow hoof that was 100 meters wide. He stomped on the air and crushed the ground and the mountain peak with one stomp. He had an aura that could crush everything and his power was boundless. Not only did the skeleton want to crush Jiang Tian, it also wanted to pierce through the mountain peak below him. But although Jiang Xiqing is talented, she is still too rash and impetuous. The Lord of the Eastern Canyon sighed, but there was a hint of coldness deep in his eyes. Jiang Tian had killed the divine lords of the moon-catching monster and the crippled wolf monster with a snap of his fingers. With such a grand cultivator helping Lin Hanqing, who would dare to compete with him in the future? If Lin Hanqing wanted to kill the Lord of the Eastern Canyon, it would only take him a few words. The Lord of the Eastern Canyon was neutral. He didn't help Purple Marquis and Jinyuan Marquis, and he had never offended Lin Hanqing. However, it wasn't a good thing for him if Lin Hanqing became powerful. What a pity! Many nascent soul and soul formation cultivators of the Nine Mysteries sect sighed. It would be a blessing for the Nine Mysteries sect if they could recruit such a talent like Jiang Xiqing. If Jiang Xiqing could kill a soul formation grand cultivator when she was only a nascent soul cultivator, the level of her nascent soul must be very high. She was a soul formation cultivator, or even a saint. Once such a talent was born, not only the Nine Mysteries sect, but also all the holy sects and holy grounds would be in high demand. Seeing this, Fairy Qingju couldn't help but want to activate her sacred weapon to save Jiang Tian. But suddenly, there was a loud boom. A vast and blazing thunderbolt suddenly exploded under the feet of Divine Lord Nyoben. The lightning was multicolored and shot straight up like a giant pillar that supported the heavens and the earth. The energy was so vast and powerful that it was like a peerless heavenly sword that could tear the sky and penetrate the universe. Everyone could only see that Sir God Nyoben's foot was torn apart by the blazing lightning. Then, the lightning pillar soared to a height of dozens of miles and gave out an aura of primordial chaos. It was as though the lightning that was born when the universe was created could give birth to worlds. Divine Lord Nyoben screamed and he retreated in the air. Blood splattered all over the sky. Not only was his Dharma Laksana body injured, but his real body was also affected. The other soul formation grand cultivators, including Fairy Qingju, who was a half-saint, were dumbfounded. As for Li Yichen and Lin Dai, they were dumbfounded as they looked at the scene in front of them, as if they were mortals who had seen a god. They saw Jiang Tian rising with his back against the thunderbolt. His white hair fluttered in the wind. His facial features were well-defined and his temperament was profound. His eyes were as sharp as knives and he was full of killing intent. He was like an invincible demon god. Chapter 1922. This scene was too shocking. Sir God Nyoben was an experienced peak divine transformation realm cultivator and one of the 4 guardians of the myriad demons palace. He was more than 10 times more powerful than moon-catching demon and crippled wolf combined. He might not be any weaker than fairy Qingjue. After all, one's cultivation level was not completely equivalent to one's combat strength. Nyoben was an experienced divine transformation realm cultivator and had much more combat experience than fairy Qingjue. His combat awareness was also one of the best in the empire. However, such a peerless expert was at a disadvantage in the first round of combat with Jiang Tian? How could everyone not be shocked? You want to crush me? Ha, do you have the ability? Bullnose. Jiang Tian's fighting spirit was boiling. A monstrous murderous aura surged. The crazy fighting spirit swept across the entire area as if it was going to shatter the sky. Even fairy Qingjue felt her heart palpitate when she sensed this terrifying aura. She was shocked and stunned. How terrifying is this aura? Moreover, it's filled with chaotic aura. I'm afraid he's a rare divine nascent soul realm cultivator or even a deity nascent soul realm cultivator. If the 9 Mysteries sect can win him over, they will have a successor. Fairy Qingjue had always been calm and composed. It seemed that even if the world was turned upside down or collapsed, she would not be moved at all. However, at this moment she was really stunned. Her thoughts were running wild. Her moist mouth was slightly open and her clear eyes were wide open. Who in this world can kill me? Jiang Tian was arrogant and unruly. He stepped on the rules and the great Tao coiled around him as he ascended to the sky. He was majestic and filled with fighting spirit. His every move seemed to be able to destroy the world. It was as if the world could not contain him and everything was going to be torn and destroyed by him. At this moment, everyone knew that an earth-shattering battle was about to break out. It might be the most dazzling battle in the empire in the past few hundred years. After all, Sir God Nyoben was one of the 4 guardians of the Demon King Palace. He was on par with the pillar of the empire, the goddess of war Dongfang Moyu, and the overlord of the southern border, Nenhe Gongfang Jinlong. You're too arrogant. You don't know the vastness of the world, and you don't know anything about the power of the demon race. Sir God Nyoben let out a low roar and his 4 faces were filled with anger. He was filled with a terrifying aura. He had the bloodline of the ancient 4-headed heavenly bull. At that moment, he was condensing his real blood and burning his divine power. His body suddenly expanded to a height of 10,000 feet. He looked like an ancient demon god that had descended and he was almost the same as an ancient ancestor. Die! His 8 arms each held a saint weapon and a Tao artifact. Each of them could split the heavens and shatter the earth. They all shook and changed, leaving behind afterimages in the air. He was like a 1,000-armed Buddha. With a furious roar, he also attacked Jiang Tian. Clang. Jiang Tian wanted to show his divinity in front of everyone, so he didn't dodge at all. He used his chaotic divine body to take on the power of the 8 arms head-on. Suddenly, a huge explosion occurred. The void cracked, the laws were in chaos, and the great Tao collapsed. Countless mountains crumbled. Lightning interweaved in the sky. It was chaos. The sun and the moon seemed to be hanging upside down. Rumble. The battlefield was in chaos within a radius of 100 miles. There was no doubt that it was a peak battle. If it weren't for the sturdy great Tao of heaven and earth and the tough Dharma that suppressed the power of the cultivators, the impact and the repercussions of the battle would have destroyed 100,000 or even a small planet like Earth. At that moment, the cultivators of the East Gorge Mansion, the Myriad Demons Palace, and even the 9 Mysteries sect retreated one after another. They took flight and ran faster than rabbits. The collision between the 2 gave off a destructive feeling. Very soon, it went beyond the range of the 100 Flowers Peak. Everyone was afraid that they would be caught in the crossfire. In fact, if the nascent soul realm cultivators were slightly slower, they would be instantly crushed into powder by the repercussions of the collision. Not even a drop of dust was left. Clang. After Jiang Tian blocked the attack of the 8 arms, he suddenly threw out a punch. The void exploded and it was followed by the collapse of space. Countless chaotic holes appeared and they were dark, deep and pitch black as though they were connected to another dimension. A punch broke through the void and hit Sir God Niuben. Divine Lord Niubai's 8 arms swayed at the same time. The sacred weapons and magic treasures in his hands shone with dazzling light at the same time. Several layers of domains were spread out in an attempt to fend off Jiang Tian's punch. But it was useless. Bang, bang, bang. The fist force was unparalleled and the chaotic aura was extremely condensed. It crushed all Daoist and Dharma treasures. Sir God Niuben's Dao weapons and holy weapons exploded one after another. The fragments and Dharma treasures shot out and collided with the Dharma and great Dao of heaven and earth. Thunderous dragons that were 1,000 meters long were created. Every wisp of chaotic chi that Jiang Tian had unleashed turned into a heavenly sword. There were more than tens of thousands of them. They were as numerous as the spring rain and the hair of a cow. They slashed horizontally, slashed vertically, stabbed vertically, stirred and rotated as they slashed on Niuben's body with various sword moves. They were so deep that the bones could be seen. It was a ghastly sight. The slashes caused the hair of the cow to fly and the beef to roll. Sir God Niuben screamed in pain and he was furious. "This is impossible!" Sir God Niuben shouted and retreated. Ever since he had cultivated the real body of the 4-headed heavenly bull, he had been invincible in the entire Eastern Empire. Even the void-returned saints of the holy grounds and holy sects could only lightly injure him. He had never thought that he would be defeated by an itinerant cultivator from an alien tribe. It was really unbearable. It smells so good. Jiang Tian sniffed and his handsome face showed an intoxicated expression. He looked at Saintess Qingju and said in high spirits, "It tastes good. Don't you want to eat it? This is the meat of a heavenly bull. With such a monster helping Lin Hanqing, he will be safe in the empire." The expressions of many of the experts present also changed. The Duke of Eastern Gorge was deeply moved. In fact, there were some things that he had not said. If Lin Hanqing wanted to, he could change the name of the empire. "Duke, you are right." The 4 foreign dignitaries of the Duke's mansion nodded in agreement. They all thought that they were monstrous geniuses. The 4 friends of Eastern Gorge had their own strengths and were famous all over the world. However, the power that Jiang Tian had shown was not worth mentioning at all. "No matter how you change, you can't hurt me. No matter how powerful you are, I will break it with one punch. Saintess, we have to recruit this person no matter what. Even if he is not willing to join the 9 Mysteries sect, we have to try our best to win him over." Nangongyu, an elder of the 9 Mysteries sect, looked at Saintess Qingju and spoke to her through divine sense. He was expressionless and looked calm. However, when his voice sounded in Saintess Qingju's mind, it trembled slightly. It showed how excited he was. "I understand." Saintess Qingju nodded with a solemn expression. Although Nangongyu's cultivation was not as high as hers, he was an elder in the 9 Mysteries sect. He had a close relationship with her father and was highly valued by the higher-ups of the sect. His judgment was especially sharp. Every time the sect recruited new disciples, he would be the one to check them out. He had once discovered many divine transformation realm cultivators. He valued Jiang Tian's potential. It could be said that Jiang Tian's current combat strength was enough to show disdain for the world. He was on par with the holy sons and zongzi of the various holy grounds. However, what was more exciting was Jiang Tian's potential. Jiang Tian was very young. He was not even 100 years old. However, he could challenge a divine transformation realm cultivator. Chapter 1923. Regardless of whether Jiang Tian had a divine nascent soul or a deity nascent soul, he would be an extraordinary being in time to grow into one of the most powerful beings on this continent. It was even possible for him to become a void-returning cultivator and become a sage. Any sect that obtained such a prodigy would have an additional return to void stage saint guarding the sect. A void returning cultivator. It was like the superpowers on Earth that had nuclear weapons. They would have the capital to deter their opponents and stand proudly on this continent. Their status would definitely rise as a result. This human is too terrifying. As for the demon race cultivators, their faces were pale as they trembled in fear. Jiang Tian took out a bamboo skewer and pierced a piece of beef in the air. He then used vermilion bird fire to roast the beef and sprinkled some cumin on it from time to time. "Moo! You've gone too far." Niu Ben roared angrily and opened his mouth. Suddenly, endless Dharma laws appeared and turned into chains of order, rushing in all directions. Clang, clang, clang. The chains of law were like dragons, and the laws were different. Strange phenomena appeared. The chains of law of green thunder shot out lightning, the chains of law of fire burned the sky, and the chains of law of astral wind seemed to be connected to the 9 nether hells and the 9 heavens. There were hundreds of them, and there were fragments of the great Tao floating between them. They were like the hair of a demon god, and they rushed towards Jiang Tian to bind him. Clang, boom. When Niu Ben's chains of order rushed out, the Dharma laws in the world were torn apart and the great Tao was shattered. It had the power to destroy everything. Each chain of order could destroy a majestic city and the foundation of a feudal family. They weaved into a net, covering the sky and covering the earth as they charged towards Jiang Tian. At this moment, the several thousand-foot mountain peaks around Jiang Tian were pierced through by the law chains. The 100,000-foot mountain peaks were wrapped around by the law chains and instantly exploded. Humph! Passing me, Jiang Tian humphed and unleashed the extreme speed of the Kunpeng. He took a step in the air and his body soared into the sky like a dragon. In the chain of law that was like a giant net and a jungle, he soared and galloped. His body moved and he dodged the piercing and strangling of the chain of law easily. He then appeared in front of Sir God Niu Ben like a ghost. Jiang Tian didn't use his Dharma form and was still the size of an ordinary person. In front of Sir God Niu Ben, who was 5 to 6 miles tall, he was as small as an egg at the foot of Mount Tai. However, Sir God Niu Ben suddenly revealed an extremely shocked expression and shouted, "My friend, please stop." He wanted to stop and make peace. But Jiang had already attacked. Clang. Passing me, Jiang Tian punched out, opening and closing wide. At this moment, the fist force was unparalleled. The mountains collapsed and the seas roared. The sun and the moon dimmed and the stars moved. It was extremely terrifying. Under the punch, Sir God Niu Ben's skull, which was facing Jiang Tian, was smashed into pieces. It fell and blood spurted out. Then, the skull that was a few hundred meters in radius exploded with a loud bang. Blood splattered all over the sky and flesh rained down. It was as though there was a rainstorm. Starting from the skull, there were terrifying cracks spreading to the other 3 skulls. They instantly covered all of them like a spider web. In the blink of an eye, the 3 skulls exploded in the sky one after another. There were thunderous booms and all kinds of rules and great ways collapsed. There were thunderbolts that were 1,000 meters long in the sky. Rumble. Niu Ben's huge body, which was 5 to 6 miles tall, slammed heavily on the ground with 8 huge arms and caused a mountain to collapse. He's too strong. He only used 3 rounds to kill Sir God Niu Ben? At this moment, the Duke of Eastern Canyon and the 4 guests were dumbfounded. It was as though they were struck by lightning. How could he be so sharp? Fairy Qingjue raised her head in a daze, looking at the deceased Jiang Tian in disbelief. He killed Sir God Niu Ben. Such a young talent is demonic. How could Li Yichen be compared to him? Lin Dai was even more dumbfounded. Brother Jiang, you fought beautifully. Why don't you stay at the 9 Mysteries sect for a few days and we can discuss martial arts together to improve our cultivation? Suddenly, Fairy Qingjue took light steps and flew in front of me, Jiang Tian. She curtsied, and her gentle smile revealed deep reverence. Brother Jiang, your cultivation is deep and your divine powers are unpredictable. The old man is full of admiration for you. The sect master of the Nine Mysteries sect is very hospitable and he likes to make friends with all the talents in the world. If you are willing to come, he will be very happy. Elder Nangong Yu stepped forward and revealed a respectful expression. He solemnly cupped his fists and extended a warm invitation. It was as if he had already treated Jiang Tian as a distinguished guest. But isn't the sect master in seclusion? Elder Nangong means that he will ask the sect master to come out of seclusion and meet Brother Jiang. It's obvious that Brother Jiang is very important to Elder Nangong and the Holy Maiden. When the other disciples of the Nine Mysteries sect heard this, they were all shocked. They discussed among themselves and looked at Jiang Tian with great respect. Sai, he has such great strength and can be called a big shot on this continent. He is strong enough to make friends with the Holy Maiden, the elders, and even the sect master. It's funny that I was worried that the Holy Maiden would take him as a disciple of the Nine Mysteries sect and compete with me for the position of the chief disciple. How could such a position exist in the eyes of such a powerful person? At this moment, Li Yichen's face was gloomy. He was like a grain of rice under the bright moon. He had lost his will to compete and was despondent. When a person was stronger than you but you could still catch up, you would be vigilant, jealous, and even resentful. When a person was so strong that you didn't even have the chance to catch up, you wouldn't even be jealous. You could only sigh in admiration. If there is a chance to meet the sect master, this is such an honor. When Lin Dai saw the Holy Maiden Qingjue's shocked and admiring expression towards Jiang Tian and heard Nangong Yu's invitation, a trace of strong and clear regret emerged in her heart. At that time, Lin Hanqing had tried his best to matchmake Jiang Tian and Lin Dai. However, Lin Dai was infatuated with Li Yichen at that time and was extremely resistant to this matter. She kept saying, "Cultivator from outside the river," and "widower with a child," and looked down on Jiang Tian. She even threatened Lin Hanqing that if he dared to force her, she would commit suicide. Thus, Lin Hanqing had to give up. But now, based on Jiang Tian's current valiant battle record, not to mention that she was just the daughter of a marquis, even if she was the little princess Dongfang Ying or eldest princess Mou, would she be worthy of him? As for Li Yichen, compared to Jiang Tian, he was not even worthy of carrying his shoes. Even if the sect master of the Nine Mystery sect came personally, he would have to be courteous to him. At that moment, her father's words could not help but appear in her mind. He is not a simple person. He has hidden his sharpness. Now, he is just a small lotus that has revealed its tip. One day, when he completely reveals his strength and ascends to the heavens, he will become a giant in the Saint Origin world. I am afraid that even the princesses of the imperial family and the goddesses of the holy lands and holy sects will fight for him. At that time, it will be difficult for you to get close to him again. At that time, you will regret it. At that time, she had only thought it was a joke. But now, it had become a reality. Sush, sush, sush. At that moment, Sir God Nyoben's divine treasure cracked open and a god that looked like a mini version of himself left his body. The body and divine treasure that had lost the god immediately exploded and turned into a rain of sparkling flesh and broken bones that splattered everywhere. Sir God Nyoben's god did not even look at it. He waved his hand and took away the demon imprisoning fairy jar. Without saying a word, he flew away in a ray of light. Sush, sush, sush. The other monster clan cultivators quickly followed him, trying to run away. Jiang Tian snorted and used the extreme speed of the Kunpeng again to chase after Sir God Nyoben. Don't chase after a cornered enemy. Seeing this, Fairy Qingjue's pretty face changed and she warned loudly. Chapter 1924. Nyoben's deity had given up his body, many holy weapons and doctrine artifacts, and only took the demon imprisoning fairy jar with him as a deterrent. Now that his corporeal body was dead, even if his god was still alive and he was lucky enough to be reborn or reconstruct his corporeal body with a drop of blood, his cultivation level was only 1/10 of his original. He was already desperate, and he was not afraid of anything. If Jiang Tian dared to chase after him, He would risk his life and release the demonic dragon decimating abyss. My friend Zhang Tian, he has already retreated. Why do you have to fight to the death with him? He has the abyssal demonic dragon. Elder Nangong Yu's face was also filled with anxiety as he shouted loudly. What else is there in this world that I, Jiang Xiqing, will fight to the death with him? Jiang Tian did not listen. In his laughter, the Kuan Peng accelerated to its maximum speed. Its body was like a peerless heavenly sword that split the heavens and earth. It was about to catch up with him. So brainless. Disaster. Disaster. Lin Dyer was so anxious that she stomped her feet. She hated Jiang Tian to the extreme. In her opinion, Jiang Tian had killed the divine emperors of the monster clan and destroyed Niu Ben's body. He was qualified to look down on the world. This was what it meant to be famous. In the future, no matter where Jiang Tian went, the royal families of the countries, the aristocratic families, and even the holy sects and holy grounds would have to show him respect. However, Jiang Tian had chased after Niu Ben and provoked the abyssal demonic dragon. He was courting death. He did not know when to stop and did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. The abyssal demonic dragon was a ferocious creature from the ancient times. Its strength was probably 10 times or even 100 times more powerful than Niu Ben's. Retreat. Fairy Qingjue made a prompt decision and waved her hand. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Many cultivators of the 9 mysteries sect flew away on their flying swords and various flying dharma artifacts to avoid the attack. Retreat. Seeing this scene, the Eastern Gorge Duke's expression turned incomparably horrified, and he shouted loudly. He knew that this was the most dangerous moment. The scariest one was never Sir God Niu Ben but the Abyss Demon Dragon. Once this demonic dragon was born, not many people in the entire empire would be able to stop it. Even soul formation grand cultivators like them wouldn't be able to stop the decimating abyss. The Lord of the Eastern Gorge and the 4 guest elders led a lot of cultivators solemnly. Without saying a word, they soared into the sky in streaks of light like supersonic fighter jets and swept across the sky to a military fortification thousands of kilometers away. Jiang, you forced me to do this. Niu Ben's god roared furiously and lifted the lid of the devil-imprisoning immortal jar. At this moment, the world seemed to have lost all light. All of a sudden, everything became dark and gloomy. Everyone, including Fairy Qingjue, the Duke of Eastern Gorge and Elder Nangong, felt suffocated and extremely uncomfortable. It was a kind of reverence that came from the bottom of his heart. It was an instinctive fear. It was like a fierce tiger hiding in the forest. Rabbits, elks, and other small animals or herbivores, even if they had not seen it with their own eyes, would tremble and feel uneasy when they sensed its aura and majesty. Roar! A deep roar that sounded like muffled thunder came from the jar. A ray of dark light suddenly shot out from it and soared into the sky. Everyone looked up in shock and saw that the wind and clouds had gathered in the sky, forming a giant vortex that was hundreds of kilometers wide. This vortex was extremely deep and dark. Lightning flashed and thunder roared, the laws of nature were chaotic, and the fragments of the great Tao floated up and down. Strange phenomena appeared as if it was connected to the demon realm and the 9 heavens. It was extremely frightening. Even the people in the Lord of the Eastern Gorge's territory thousands of kilometers away saw this scene. It instantly spread across the entire empire. My decimating abyss has finally seen the light of day again. A dragon's roar came from the vortex. The sound was as loud as thunder. The powerful sound instantly broke the eardrums of many nascent soul cultivators and made them bleed. Every inch of their muscles was trembling. An unparalleled power directly invaded their divine sense, making them feel small and insignificant compared to the decimating abyss. They couldn't help but have the urge to kneel down and worship it. Even the soul formation grand cultivators couldn't withstand it. Their expressions changed drastically as they frantically stepped back. This dragon's roar also spread across the entire empire in an instant. It even spread outside the empire and shocked half of the Saint Origin world. The decimating abyss has reappeared in the Eastern Gorge. This is the famous primordial demon dragon. Terrifying. It didn't die. For a moment, everyone was shocked and couldn't believe it. This time, the pantheon of demons has really put in a lot of effort. Eastern Lu put on his clothes and stood up in his bedroom. His expression was stern as he cast his gaze toward the Eastern Gorge and the 100 Flowers Peak. Mr. actually went up against the decimating abyss demon dragon? Why did the opponent's plan this time was so far-reaching? It's so terrifying. In the Princess Royal's palace in Jianghan City, Princess Royal Mou's delicate body trembled slightly. Her jade face was filled with anxiety and worry. Will Senior Jiang be okay? Princess Dongfang Ying's beautiful eyes were filled with tears. She pulled the Princess Royal's sleeve and asked in a trembling voice, "Mr. is blessed by the heavens." "Of course, he'll be fine," Lin Yang said with a smile, but in fact, he wasn't very confident. He grew up listening to the legend of the decimating abyss demon dragon. In his memory, it wasn't a creature that belonged to the Saint Origin world at all. This Lin Dyer has done a lot of harm. If anything happens to Mr., I'll kill her. Princess Royal Mou suddenly shouted with a cold face. In the mortal world, whether it was the royal family, the nobles, or the civil and military officials, none of them could ignore this news. The decimating abyss has reappeared. How can we just stand by and watch? It will definitely set off a storm of blood. Close the gates of the sect and activate all the mountain protection arrays. All the disciples who are traveling outside must return to the sect immediately. We can't stay here for long. All the secluded sects were alarmed. The Soul Formation Grand Cultivators walked out of their secluded cultivation places. The sect masters soared into the sky, as if they were facing a great enemy. Their expressions were unprecedentedly serious. Some were communicating with their divine sense to discuss the strategy of killing. Some chose to avoid the danger and close the gates. Some directly fled into the distance. The decimating abyss has already been enshrined by the pantheon of demons as a guardian beast. Who could kill the pantheon of demons so badly and force the demons to use the decimating abyss? What kind of monster is involved? Even the living fossils who had chosen to stop their blood and wait for their opportunity, who were already old and emitting a decaying aura, had awakened. They cast their turbid eyes toward the Eastern Empire, the Eastern Canyon, and the 100 Flowers Peak. The decimating abyss. He's about to appear. The Duke of the Eastern Canyon looked at the sky with a pale face, trembling uneasily. The dragon with extremely high cultivation under him was so scared that it was trembling, like an earthworm meeting a giant python. This is the decimating abyss. The four guests were also shocked. Their eyes were filled with extreme horror. A giant, hideous, and terrifying dragon head slowly emerged from the clouds. The dragon head was the size of a 1,000-foot mountain and had a radius of 10 miles. It was visually shocking and oppressive. Soon after, the enormous dragon body was faintly discernible within the churning dark clouds. Roughly estimating, it was likely 100 miles long. It was like a winding mountain range that spanned across the sky. Its dragon horns were like halberds and swords, piercing the sky. Its 5 claws were shining with a sharp light. Its black scales had a cold, metallic luster. They were heavy and sharp. Countless wisps of black mist rose around it, turning into a hell. Numerous devil gods could be faintly seen standing up from within hell. Every single one of them was 300 m tall, covered in black armor, and had 2 horns that shot into the sky and flickered with cold lights. Their crimson-red eyes were blood-red like diamonds, and they opened their bloody mouths to reveal countless fangs that emanated cold lights, causing them to seem like devils from hell. They weren't real fiend gods. They were just the external manifestations of the fiend chi laws, which were extremely terrifying. Chapter 1925. When the abyssal demon dragon's terrifying aura was completely unleashed, everyone within a radius of 1,000 miles felt a tremendous pressure. It was as if a 1,000-pound hammer had smashed into their chests, making it difficult for them to breathe and their heartbeats quicken. Those below the soul formation realm couldn't control themselves at all. They lost all their dermic powers and fell from the sky. Lin Dyer and Li Chen were covered in dust and dirt. They couldn't resist the pressure and could only crawl on the ground, unable to get up. It's too powerful. This decimating abyss demonic dragon seems to be much stronger than what was recorded in the ancient books. Fairy Qingjue's face turned pale and she lost her composure. According to the ancient books, this decimating abyss demonic dragon was about a half-saint and its real body was only 50 miles long. But now it was more than 100 miles long. However, his strength had doubled, and he had completely stepped into the return to void stage. In the long history, the pantheon of demons has been raising and worshipping it. It uses the blood essence and dermic powers of nascent soul and soul formation cultivators as resources. How can its cultivation not increase? Elder Nangong Yu shook his head, his eyes full of fear and worry. In fact, at this moment, the hearts of countless cultivators and mortals in the Eastern Canyon were in their throats as they broke out in cold sweat. Especially the cultivators, they were even more terrified than before. It was as if you went up the mountain to hunt a wild rabbit but met a wild boar or a wolf. You had a mental breakdown. This Jiang Xiqing is going to kill us. Li Chen hit the ground with his head and lay on the ground like a dead dog. He gritted his teeth and cursed. Why didn't he die? He could have let Niu Ben's god leave, but he had to stop him. He released the decimating abyss demonic dragon and we're all in danger. He's so arrogant and unscrupulous, but the saintess thinks highly of him. Jiang Xiqing, you're just a stubborn person who can't be persuaded. You're so arrogant. You didn't listen to me and provoked Divine Lord Niu Ben. Look what happened now. He released the decimating abyss demonic dragon. Let's see how you get through this crisis. Lin Dyer was so angry that her face turned red. She kept pounding the ground with her fists to vent her anger. But I'm going to enjoy myself. The abyssal demon dragon clawed. Immediately, massive dragon claws appeared above the Duke of the Eastern Gorges group several hundred li away. The claws were covered in black scales, and each one was several zhang wide. They were like a roof, and their sharp claws shone with cold light as they swiped at the Duke of the Eastern Gorge and the 4 guest chamberlains. What? The Eastern Gorge Duke and the 4 guest chamberlains stared in disbelief. It was rumored that the decimating abyss possessed the bloodline of a true dragon, and was known for its numerous transformations. It was omnipotent, and meticulous. They had long been 100 times more vigilant, but they never imagined that the decimating abyss would act so quickly. But the Duke of the Eastern Gorge and the 4 guest chamberlains weren't ordinary people either. They each had their own strengths. Immediately, beams of light shot into the sky, tearing the night sky apart and illuminating the land. The Duke of the Yellow Bell's giant golden bell vibrated and produced sound waves that could destroy mountains. Dan Qingxing waved his brush and immediately, beasts and swords formed. Each of them contained laws and were comparable to a Dao artifact. They attacked the dragon claws. Bald Brush Wang wrote straight and powerful runes condensed under the tip of his brush. They shone with dazzling golden light. Meanwhile, Shifuozi threw out chess pieces one after another, which immediately turned into unparalleled generals, soldiers, chariots, flying boats, and buildings. They instantly formed an army formation and charged towards the sky. Little worm, huh? You still want to resist? The decimating abyss snorted. As he grunted, fire, wind, and thunder spurted out of his nostrils, which were enough to destroy a city. It was a shocking scene. His demonic dragon claws became larger and larger, instantly becoming several dozen kilometers across. They blotted out the sky like clouds. Even more terrifyingly, all energy, powers, and laws were sealed and obliterated in this space. Even space had been frozen like a metal plate, making it impossible to use any techniques of escape. Enveloped by the demonic dragon claws, the sound waves fell silent and the golden bell stopped moving. Whether it was the beasts, swords, spears, swords, or halberds, they all collapsed and dispersed. The golden runes were all destroyed. In the end, the entire chess piece formation turned back into chess pieces and fell to the ground. They actually did not possess any powers at all. Slash. The Duke of the Eastern Gorge became extremely stern. He released his ancestral flying sword and swung it towards the demonic dragon claws. This ancestral flying sword was a holy weapon, and its magic power was not completely restricted. Normally, it could overturn rivers and seas, and split mountains and split the earth. At this moment, it struck the demonic dragon's claw with a clang, but it made a clanging sound and burst into sparks. However, it did not even cut off a single dragon scale. The dragon claws swiped backwards and directly crushed the ancestral flying sword to pieces. Spurt. On the other hand, the Duke of the Eastern Gorge was utterly disgusted. He tasted something sweet in his throat and vomited a mouthful of black blood. Oh no! The Duke of the Eastern Gorge and the others discovered to their shock that not only were all their powers and treasures useless, they could not even escape. They were already trapped there. Afterwards, the many cultivators, including the Duke of the Eastern Gorge, were all captured by the dragon claws. They could not struggle at all. My life is over. The Duke of the Eastern Gorge howled miserably. He had already been extremely cautious. Originally, he only wanted to watch this fierce battle, but he never thought that he would still end up like this. It could only be said that the decimating abyss was just too powerful and too terrifying. Afterwards, the decimating abyss opened its mouth and turned into a huge black hole. A terrifying suction force erupted from it, as if it wanted to swallow the entire world. With the suction, countless tornadoes erupted. Immediately, countless huge rocks floated into the air and flew towards the huge mouth with the Duke of the Eastern Gorge, the 4 guest elders, and the many nascent soul cultivators. My lord, we'll save you. The 4 guest elders roared and used the last of their powers to push the Duke of the Eastern Gorge away. However, they and the dozens of nascent soul cultivators were instantly sucked into the huge mouth and killed by the laws. They were smelted and burned into the purest essence chi and completely devoured. This was a shocking scene that made the scalps of all the survivors numb and their hearts almost explode. That feeling was like being immersed in the mouth of a bottomless ice sea in an extremely cold place. They felt cold all over and their hair stood on end. There were 4 soul formation cultivators, and all of them were late or even peak soul formation cultivators. Moreover, they were all experienced soul formation cultivators with unfathomable abilities. It was not an exaggeration to say that even if they encountered a half-sage, they would still have the chance to escape unscathed. However, such a peerless expert was actually swallowed by the decimating abyss in a single gulp like eating candy. Fellow Daoist Jiang, what should we do? Fairy Qingjue's voice trembled slightly as she looked at Jiang Tian in panic. For the first time, she did not know what to do. They were the closest to the decimating abyss demon dragon, only a few dozen kilometers away. They were completely within the attack range of the decimating abyss. The reason why the decimating abyss attacked the Duke of the Eastern Gorge and the others first was because they had already escaped too far away and were worried that they would not be able to capture them. The reason why they did not attack Jiang Tian and the others was not because the decimating abyss was merciful. Instead, it was because they were certain that Jiang Tian would not have the chance to escape. Fairy Qingjue could not help but worry. Although Jiang Tian could kill soul formation cultivators with a raise of his hand, the decimating abyss demon dragon's performance was truly too terrifying. Its demonic flames shook the heavens and earth and blocked some laws and abilities. Could Jiang Tian really withstand it? At this moment, even Elder Nangong Yu, who thought the most highly of Jiang Tian, felt uneasy and sweaty. Chapter 1926. Although Mr. Zhang's divine powers are unpredictable and his methods are heaven-defying, being able to kill an experienced soul formation grand cultivator at the peak nascent soul realm, he's still from a remote and desolate galaxy. He's not a native of the Saint Origin world. He doesn't know how terrifying the decimating abyss demonic dragon is. He doesn't know that we cultivators should follow the heavenly Tao and that the strong are easy to break. Even Elder Nangong Yu shook his head and sighed, feeling anxious and regretful. He escorted the disciples of the Nine Mysteries sect to retreat and was at the back, more than 100 miles away from the decimating abyss demonic dragon. But he still felt a great pressure. Under this terrifying pressure, he even had the urge to kneel down and submit, prostrating himself in worship. The Saint Origin world once had a dark age when the monster clan wreaked havoc. Countless human cultivators became food for the monster clan and their lives were in danger. Their fear of the monster clan was bone deep. As a cultivator, his senses were 1,000,000 times sharper than a mortal's. He could clearly feel the ferocious power and demonic chi emitted by the decimating abyss demonic dragon. If Jiang Tian's original body was here, he would probably also be somewhat fearful. This demonic dragon's cultivation base had already reached the half-saint stage and was only half a step away from reaching the divine transcendent stage. It was much more powerful than Emperor Niu Ben, especially since it had the bloodline of a true dragon, which was extremely rich. It was called a quasi-true dragon and its body was much stronger than its peers. At this moment, its scales and muscles were much stronger than ancestral patriarch Tsang Ming in the ruins of immortality. The most terrifying thing was that it had been contaminated by demonic chi. After countless years, the demonic chi had melted together and turned into its own dharma and Tao. It was full of demonic chi and could destroy the dharma and Tao of human cultivators. Its defense was amazing. Even a sacred weapon would be like scratching an itch to it. But so what? Unfortunately, the decimating abyss demonic dragon didn't meet Jiang Tian this time. It was Jiang Tian's evil thoughts and negative emotions that turned into Jiang Tian. He was full of contradictions, hypocrisy, greed and deceit, as well as jealousy, viciousness, bloodthirstiness and brutality. Sometimes he was afraid of death. Sometimes he liked to show off in front of others and would never back down. Jiang Tian raised his head. His eyes were filled with indifference and arrogance, filled with a wild and bloodthirsty aura. In my previous life, even the true dragon of the 9 heavens was killed by me. Besides, you're just a quasi-true dragon. Even if you transcend your tribulation and become a true return to void stage sage, I'll still be able to kill you. As if sensing the disdain in Jiang Tian's eyes, the abyss demon dragon no longer paid any attention to the Duke of Eastern Gorge who was running for his life. He withdrew his giant claw and turned his mountain-like dragon head around. His eyes, which were as bright as the sun, stared at Jiang Tian and said coldly, "What a ridiculous and ignorant human bug. Aren't you afraid? A mere snake is barely qualified to be my mount." Jiang Tian stepped out. At this moment he was like a peerless devil ancestor. There was actually devil chi swirling around him, extremely terrifying and intimidating. His eyes were filled with coldness and madness, causing others to not dare to approach him. What a powerful aura! Fairy Qingjue's heart trembled slightly. She had a feeling. In Jiang Tian's eyes, the heavens and earth, the immortals and Buddhas were nothing in his eyes, not to mention the demons and monsters. Even if the 9 heavens celestial realm mighty figures descended to the mortal world, he would still kill them. This was a kind of domineering aura. It was a kind of extreme confidence that no one could defeat him. As expected of a peerless prodigy. Only a peerless prodigy who is blessed by heaven and earth would have this kind of confidence. Elder Nangong Yu was also shocked. This kind of aura was too powerful. It was as if he was the master of this world. Even a true god would be trampled under his feet. The birth of the abyss demon dragon would be a great calamity. Not only the Eastern Empire, but the entire Saint Origin world would experience a great calamity. Even the corpses of hundreds of millions of people would not be enough. Even soul formation mighty figures and return to void stage mighty figures would suffer. After all, the abyss demon dragon was once famous and had wreaked havoc in an era. It had once devoured 800 soul formation mighty figures and several returned to void stage mighty figures. Its battle record was there. After a long time and being worshipped and raised by the pantheon of demons, its strength had increased instead of decreasing. Now, who would be willing to step forward and fight? Jiang Tian wanted to kill the decimating abyss demonic dragon. This could be said to be 100 deaths and 1 life. This was also a shocking battle, But he didn't even frown. Just this courage alone made Nangongyu admire him endlessly. However, admiration is one thing, but Elder Nangongyu still doesn't have any confidence in me, Jiang Tian. As for Lin Dyer and Li Chen, they did not admire Jiang Tian's courage at all. They only felt that he was courting death. Right at this moment, many mirrors, crystal cameras, and observation ships arrived and floated in the area of 1,000 square kilometers around the battlefield. Why did the Abyss Demon Dragon come out? Was it released by the Niumang? His physical body has been destroyed and only a true god is left? Who did it? I heard from the Nine Mysteries sect that it was a cultivator from outside the galaxy called Jiang Xiqing. She is now a guest of the Duke of Jinyuan's family. The Luoying sect, the Ancient Medicine Hall, the Tian Luo sect, the Nine Mysteries sect, and the other divine sects of the Saint Origin world had all sent down their Dharma artifacts to observe the battle closely. Beams of light descended from the sky and turned into soul formation grand cultivators. What? The Lin Hanqing family of the Duke of Jinyuan's family? Someone so powerful? He has the confidence to challenge the Abyss Demon Dragon? In addition, many observation artifacts and special envoys from other countries had also arrived. They were all so shocked that their eyes almost popped out. The birth of the Abyssal Devil Dragon was an earth-shattering event for any force. They were not there for Jiang Tian. They were there to observe the combat power of the Abyss Demon Dragon and to prepare for the coming bloody storm. You're courting death. I can see that you have a good foundation. I'll keep you alive so that you can reproduce and become my food for generations to come. The Abyss Demon Dragon roared and its fiend chi was awakened. Its combat power increased rapidly like a gust of wind from the nine heavens. The Dharma laws and Grand Tao in the world immediately became chaotic and clashed with each other. Green thunderbolts that were thousands of meters long burst out, as if they could destroy the world. At the same time, countless cultivators who were watching the battle 1,000 miles away were terrified. They had all set up supreme divine arrays and even brought along holy arrays created by Return to Void stage saints to protect themselves. Even so, they could still feel the terrifying aura. Their nascent souls and gods were about to split apart. It was as if a knife was scraping off their bones. Every inch of their muscles and flesh was about to be peeled off, and every drop of their chi and blood was about to dry up. It was a kind of bone-scraping pain caused by the corrosion of the devil chi. They could imagine what would have happened if they didn't have those arrays to protect themselves. They would have been turned into ashes immediately. Not even a drop of ashes would be left. And all of this was just a kind of energy wave. It wasn't a fight between the two sides. That was the power of an ancient half-saint, a supreme overlord, like a god. Terrifying. The power of the Abyss Demon Dragon is making my true god tremble as if it's about to shatter. I can't take it anymore. My primordial spirit is about to escape from my body. Retreat another 500 miles. Many powerful cultivators from the divine sects and powerful nations cried out in alarm. Then, they retreated like shooting stars, as if they were avoiding a fiend god. The abyssal demon dragon's roar was as if the heavens had descended from the heavens, crushing everyone to the point that they felt like they were about to crumble. Chapter 1927. Saintus, we can't help here. At this moment, even Nangongyu flew forward and dragged Fairy Qingjue away forcefully. Not to mention me, there aren't many people on this continent who can save him. Whether he lives or dies will depend on his own fortune. Although Fairy Qingjue was very worried about Jiang Tian, there was nothing she could do. She sighed and was dragged away by Nangongyu quickly. This was the power of a half-saint. Besides, a demonized quasi-true dragon's aura could penetrate a nascent soul cultivator and injure a soul formation cultivator. Even she couldn't resist it. In fact, she already felt that the Dharma power of the Dharma artifacts around her and the sacred weapon in her hand were about to be destroyed. She wouldn't be able to last long in this place. She would be killed. Seeing that the decimating abyss demonic dragon's attention was focused on Jiang Tian, Li Yichen, Lin Dai, and the other disciples all ran away in panic. They felt that the further away they were from the decimating abyss demonic dragon, the safer they would be. I've changed my mind. Jiang Tian suddenly let out a long laugh and said in a domineering manner, I originally wanted to take you as my mount, but you are arrogant and untamed, and I think you will often kick me. I'll stew you and make a snake feast. You're an old snake and your meat is chewy. Hearing that, the decimating abyss demonic dragon's pupils contracted and a murderous aura shot out. Demonic chi surged around his body and was as thick as black glue. He roared, Little worm, you ridiculous and ignorant worm. Do you know how many genius nascent soul cultivators like you I've killed? I've even killed a deity-grade nascent soul cultivator before. Boom. At this moment, the decimating abyss demonic dragon didn't hide his power anymore. However, with 100 Flowers Peak as the center, the area of a few thousand kilometers around it had become a land of death and silence. Mountains collapsed and the earth split apart, and there were large cracks everywhere. Rocks rotted into powder, and not a single blade of grass grew. All living beings had died in an instant, losing their vitality. But all the demonic creatures were rapidly multiplying. It was as if he had been reborn from a drop of blood. Hideous devilish bugs were crawling on the ground crazily, corroding and swallowing everything. Some of them could even condense or evolve into large devils with the capability to fight against the nascent soul stage cultivators. This was the terrifying result everyone saw. It was hard for them to accept. All of this was too bizarre and terrifying. It could be said that the demonic chi of the decimating abyss demonic dragon was more destructive than the result of the battle between the Nine Mysteries sect and the pantheon of demons. With a single roar, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked, and the seas turned into mulberry fields. The ancient gods could destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth with a single strike, but that's all there is to it. Terrifying. The appearance of the decimating abyss is definitely a great disaster. This is a catastrophe. Not only the Eastern Empire, but also our Saint Origin continent, including the many divine sects and sacred grounds, will face a great challenge. Who can stop such a powerful decimating abyss? He seems to be able to demonize foreign objects. Everyone was horrified, and their hearts were filled with warning signs. They even felt a little despair. The oppressive feeling was almost suffocating. At this time, no one thought that Jiang Tian could turn the situation around. They only thought that it had attracted the demonic creatures and caused a disaster. This was all Jiang Xiqing's doing. This kid's crime is unforgivable. He must be punished. Li Chen fanned the flames. He naturally understood that with his strength, he couldn't even withstand a slap from Jiang Tian. But if all the divine sects and sacred grounds saw Jiang Tian as their enemy and attacked him together, how could he survive? Is there a need for you to do this? He's fighting the decimating abyss demonic dragon alone. He's definitely going to die. Lin Dai scolded coldly. She wasn't speaking up for Jiang Tian out of kindness, but she was worried that the divine sects and sacred grounds would vent their anger on the Lin family. That's true. This is what he deserves. Li Yichen smiled embarrassedly, but killing intent was surging in his heart. This little girl had a deep grudge against him. He had to find a suitable opportunity to kill her later. Otherwise, who knew how she would frame him? Noisy. How do you know how many half-saints like you I've killed? It can be said that I've killed countless of them. Today, I'll show you what I, Jiang Xiqing, can do. Jiang Tian let out a wild roar. He stepped on the void with big steps and approached the decimating abyss demonic dragon. With every step, law patterns would appear, causing heaven and earth to shake. Waves of ocean-like aura surged into the sky. Jiang Tian's arrogance was incomparably vigorous as it swept across heaven and earth, cleansing the demonic chi and scattering the demonic chi. Does this kid really have the strength to fight the decimating abyss? Nangong Yu's face revealed a strange expression as he exclaimed softly. No way, he's so strong? The Duke of Eastern Canyon, who was covered in blood and frightened, had a strange look in his eyes. Because not only them, but many cultivators, including Fairy Qingjue, also felt their minds relax, and that suffocating feeling suddenly disappeared. Everyone couldn't help but be shocked and look at each other. Jiang Tian walked faster and faster. A 10-meter-long divine disc appeared behind him. Chaotic qi lingered and filled the surroundings. In the end, it actually turned into a dazzling wheel of light that stretched across the sky and cut through the sky. It was like the chariot of a god that crushed the heavens as it charged toward the abyssal demon dragon. Jiang Xiqing has attacked. Sigh. Although her courage is commendable, she's still an ant trying to shake a tree. 1,500 miles away, the leaders of the divine sects and sacred grounds saw this scene through the 1,000-mile mirror, water-moon mirror, and other Dharma artifacts floating in front of them. Their reactions were different. Some of them had their hearts in their mouths, some sighed, some shook their heads and sighed, and some mocked with disdain. In fact, the immortal wills of the soul formation cultivators could reach 1,000 miles away, but the decimating abyss demonic dragon's soul energy was too powerful, so they used observation Dharma artifacts to observe the battle. They knew about Jiang Tian's achievements, so they certainly knew that Jiang Tian was very powerful. He was only a peak-stage nascent soul cultivator, but he was able to kill so many soul formation cultivators. He was definitely talented and had an extraordinary foundation. The grade of his nascent soul was also very high, possibly even a deity-grade nascent soul. But after all, he was limited by his power and was still far from being able to kill the decimating abyss demonic dragon. You're like a frog at the bottom of a well. How ridiculous! Li Yichen grunted in disdain. He had experienced too much killing and strife in the cultivation world. What he pursued was the principle that a bad life was better than a good death. Jiang Tian's performance, in his eyes, was nothing but the bravery of an ignorant man. His death was not worth regretting. No matter how arrogant he is, it's still much better than you peeing your pants. Lin Dyer mocked. She hated Jiang Tian. But in her opinion, Li Yichen was even more annoying than Jiang Tian. You're indeed a monster who can kill a soul formation cultivator at the nascent soul level. You have some skills. A human-like smile appeared on the decimating abyss demonic dragon's giant face. It complimented, but it didn't show any mercy. Clang. It swung its dragon claw, but it suddenly elongated and turned into a terrifying blade about 3,000 feet long. Dragon-slaying blade. The blade was extremely heavy, as if it were made of supreme gold. It was emitting a bright metallic light and there were dragon patterns all over it, letting out dragon roars and blade sounds. Under the slash, the terrifying energy of the dragon race suddenly burst out, sweeping the world like a tsunami and spreading in all directions. Many cultivators had already retreated 1,000 miles away. Those with weaker levels were directly knocked away by the energy. Even some mid-stage and peak-stage soul formation grand cultivators were frightened and felt extremely uncomfortable. Chapter 1928. The True Dragon Clan has endless transformations and a variety of attacks. It is said that there are 81 transformations. Now, seeing his dragon claw turn into the dragon-slaying blade, I know that the ancient records are true. An elder of the Luoying sect said in shock. It's too terrifying. This blade is enough to make the sun and moon fall, the earth sink, and the mountains and rivers shatter. An elder of the Tianluo sect said in fear. Sigh, no wonder the ancient demon race's mighty figure, Qin Pei, spent hundreds of years to set up countless divine formations to trap him. Fairy Qingjue's deep and beautiful eyes were filled with worry. She did not know if Jiang Tian could withstand it. Sigh. Little worm, I've overestimated you. Facing this world-shaking saber strike, passing me, Jiang Tian directly used his fist to face the saber. Without saying anything, he punched out. The 3-foot divine disc behind him spun, and the chaotic 9 orifices nascent soul roared in his body. Seeing this, Li Yichen mocked softly. The True Dragon Clan is an ancient divine beast. They are known for their powerful physical bodies, and they can suppress thousands of demons in the starry sky. Does he still want to compete with his physical body? Sigh, Daoist Jiang is still lacking in battle experience. He should use his strength to attack his opponent's weakness. He should use his divine abilities and spells. The elder of the Luoying sect sighed. This is the disadvantage of the cultivators from the outer river. They have too few experts, and many of them have not experienced cruel battles. That's right. An elder of the Tianluo sect also nodded. However, they did not plan to attack. Even Fairy Qingjue wanted to attack, but she was stopped by Elder Nangongyu. The person from the ancient medicine hall who came to watch the battle was Elder Gu of the Icebound City branch. His sleeves fluttered in the wind, and his hair and beard were all white. He had the demeanor of a transcendent being. Even among the powerful elders of the various divine sects, he was a core member. Regardless of his cultivation, the ancient medicine hall was one of the top sacred grounds of the divine sect in the Saint Origin world. Moreover, he was an elder of the Ice-Sealed City branch. He was both a teacher and a friend to Gu Xian. His position was very high. Even the sect masters of ordinary divine sects had to be respectful to him. Seeing this, Elder Gu suddenly stepped into the air. Withstanding the rolling demonic chi and the monstrous dragon force, he approached the scene and shouted at the same time, "Fellow cultivators, I'm willing to give a supreme-grade divine pill to whoever is willing to help this young friend Jiang with this old man." Elder Gu knew Jiang Tian's value the best. The heavenly mending pill that Jiang Tian sold before was priceless. Moreover, Jiang Tian's attainments in pill formulas were absolutely not inferior to his. This caused him to have a feeling of regret towards Jiang Tian, and he had already regarded Jiang Tian as a friend despite the difference in age. At this moment, seeing that Jiang Tian was in danger, how could he just stand by and watch? What? Jiang Xiqing, this slave, is worth Elder Gu sacrificing more than one supreme-grade divine pill just to save her? Lin Dyer and Li Chen were stunned and couldn't believe it. The so-called supreme-grade divine pill was a pill that could help soul formation grand cultivators to advance. This kind of pill was extremely rare. Not only did it require heavenly materials and earthly treasures, but it also had to be refined by alchemy deities or alchemy sages. It usually took hundreds of years of hard work. One supreme-grade divine pill was priceless. Elder Gu, cultivators don't joke. I'm taking it seriously. The first one to step out was Nangongyu. Kill! Without Nangongyu's obstruction, Fairy Qingjue also shouted and rushed into the sky. The ancient medicine hall has always kept its promises. Elder Gu is a man of his word. Why would he joke? Some old soul formation grand cultivators who seemed to be on the verge of death also turned into streaks of light and followed them without hesitation. To deity transformation realm cultivators, their lifespans were a few thousand years old. They could either control a great sect or rule over a vast territory. Whether it was glory, splendor, wealth, or monstrous authority, it was already a thing of the past to them, and it wasn't something they wanted to pursue. The only thing they wanted to pursue was to go one step further and become a sage. Especially for these soul formation grand cultivators who were about to die, if they could reach the sky in one step and become a sage, their lifespan would be doubled. Since they were already buried up to their necks, they naturally had to give it a try. Let's go. Even if we don't fight, will the decimating abyss let us go? Even those soul formation grand cultivators in their prime gritted their teeth and flew over helplessly, determinedly, or greedily under the temptation of such great benefits. However, the moment they flew out, Jiang Tian's fist also collided with the dragon-slaying mystic saber. Bang! This loud sound was like a meteor hitting the ground. It was shocking and spread for 100,000 miles. The vast earth shook violently. The dragon-slaying mystic saber shattered in an instant. The broken pieces flew everywhere and smashed into the ground, creating many deep holes. Dragon blood splashed all over the sky. The dragon blood contained terrifying fiend chi, which instantly corroded the dimension and melted the laws. After the decimating abyss demonic dragon's roar, the dragon-slaying mystic saber quickly turned back into its original form of a dragon claw, but the dragon claw was already badly mutilated and countless scales fell off. Its mountain-like body was actually pushed back 10 miles. The power of a punch is so terrifying, Seeing this scene, the leaders of the sacred grounds and divine sects couldn't believe it. They all stopped and gasped. His body is so powerful. Fairy Qingjue's eyes widened as if she had seen a ghost. Oh my God, he can even destroy the claw of the decimating abyss. Lin Dai, Anli even screamed. But Jiang Tian thought it was reasonable. Whether it was the cultivation of the nascent soul stage or the level of the nascent soul stage, he had reached the limit. In terms of body, his chaotic divine body was perfect and flawless. Right now, he was like a Khanate god when he was young. His body was unimaginably strong. He could destroy a continent with one palm and shatter a planet with one finger. Even a saint would be slightly inferior to him in terms of physical strength. You bastard, you've successfully infuriated me. The decimating abyss demonic dragon swung its dragon claw. Because of its special bloodline, it quickly recovered, but it still couldn't hold back its anger. After all, it was a famous ancient demonic dragon. It had never suffered such a great loss under the hands of a nascent soul cultivator. Kill! Before Jiang Tian could follow up with another attack, the decimating abyss demonic dragon had already opened its abyss-like giant mouth and spat out. There was no astral wind, no demonic chi, no thunder, no shattering of laws, and no collision of laws. Instead, bright stars fell one after another, as if the sky was filled with stars. I heard that in the ancient times, there were thousands of stars around the Saint Origin world, but they were all swallowed by the decimating abyss demonic dragon. Is this one of those stars? An old guy who was like a living fossil, with skin like a chicken and a head like a crane, couldn't help but tremble when he saw this scene. Rays of light shot out of his dim eyes. He was shocked. Chapter 1929. These stars quickly turned into sword energy that descended from the sky, piercing towards Jiang Tian. Looking up from the ground, one would only feel that the stars in the sky were falling like rain. It was extremely beautiful, but behind this beauty were countless murderous intents. Stars falling like rain and sword chi turning into dust. This is the supreme sword technique, sword chi of billions of stars. It said that the decimating abyss demonic dragon once severely injured Qin Pei, a half-saint from the ancient times. Nangong Yu stopped in fear and didn't dare to move forward. A star is a small world, and it's using the Tao and laws of this world to condense sword chi. This is too terrifying. Countless people exclaimed as if they had seen a demon. At this moment, even Jiang Tian's wild and unrestrained face trembled slightly, and his gaze revealed a slightly serious expression. Back then, ancestral patriarch Song Ming, the last trump card of the most powerful overlord in the ruins of immortality, had to expend all his power to launch the Spear of a World, which was a small star formed by Tao and laws. And now, the decimating abyss demonic dragon had summoned more than 1,000 worlds with a roar. Moreover, he had refined the Tao and laws of these worlds into Sword Tao, which was extremely sharp. This was more than one level higher than Song Ming's. It was at least 1,000 or 10,000 times more powerful than Song Ming's. In fact, Song Ming was also a half-step void return and could be called a half-saint. In terms of cultivation, he was on the same level as the decimating abyss demonic dragon. However, their strength was completely different, like the difference between clouds and mud. The key was that their ranks were different, so the Tao and laws they understood and controlled were different. At this moment, although many people were far away, they could clearly feel that sharp sword chi, as if the sky was about to be pierced and the earth was about to be split. Both their minds and bodies were extremely uncomfortable, as if a knife was scraping their bones and their bodies would be shattered in the next moment. Cultivator Jiang? What a pity! The decimating abyss demonic dragon is an overlord among saints. Even Elder Gu from the ancient medicine hall was frightened and didn't dare to move forward. He could only sigh. Realm was realm and power was power. Generally speaking, a star traveler who had the power of a world the size of Earth, or who could destroy Earth with one blow, could be called a divine transformation realm cultivator on this land. Being able to destroy a star system like the solar system before the spirit chi revival with a single palm was already considered a void return saint. At this moment, the strength that the abyssal demon dragon had displayed was more than just a single realm. No matter what his cultivation base was, the power he had displayed was undeniable, and he was able to suppress most return to void stage saints. Of course, he wasn't willing to sit by and watch Jiang Tian die. But now, he had no other choice. If he went to rescue Jiang Tian, he would only die. Some sacrifices were meaningful, but some were just sacrifices. They wanted to rescue Jiang Tian, not kill the demonic dragon. After all, that was too unrealistic. They had never intended to do so. Sigh. It's hopeless. Nangong Yu's eyes twitched as he sighed regretfully. No matter how strong he is, he's still just a nascent soul cultivator. Fairy Qingjue's eyes widened and her beautiful face was filled with sorrow. She didn't know why her heart ached. The deceased Jiang Tian was definitely the most talented nascent soul cultivator she had ever seen. His level was extremely high. She cherished talents and naturally wanted to recruit them. But the bad thing was that Jiang Tian was too reckless in his actions. Maybe he came from an extragalactic star system and didn't know the legends and dangers of the abyssal demon dragon. The abyssal demon dragon was a descendant of the true dragon and had been a half-saint for many years. Plus, it had been raised by the pantheon of demons for a long time and was strengthened by fiend chi and fiend arts. Its strength was not inferior to that of a void return saint. Jiang Tian had just shown everyone that his combat power was far beyond his level and that he could easily kill soul formation cultivators. He was almost the best among soul formation cultivators. However, the abyssal demon dragon was too famous and the strength it had just displayed was too terrifying. Plus, he had the true dragon bloodline, so she had no confidence in Jiang Tian at all. Lin Dai, is this what you mean when you say that he is stronger than me? In your eyes, no matter how unbearable I am still alive. No matter how brave he is, won't he end up as the blood food of the abyssal demon dragon? Is this called ability? Is this called bravery? This is called the courage of an ignorant man, like a foolish woman in a village. This is called reckless. Li Yichen, who was prostrating on the ground, sneered and mocked, as if he was looking for an excuse for his cowardice. He also seemed to really look down on Jiang Tian's style of doing things. Alas, he has always been so arrogant and condescending. He deserves this. Lin Dai looked at the back of Jiang Tian, who seemed to be about to die under the sword chi of the Milky Way, and ignored Li Yichen's question. At this moment, she had mixed feelings. She felt lost and a little regretful. But when she thought of how Jiang Tian had just slapped her in public, she suddenly hardened her heart and only gloated and mocked. Everyone had different thoughts. However, everyone had the same thought, and that was that they, Jiang Tian, would definitely die. Little Daoist. Unexpectedly, the shock on Jiang Tian's face disappeared in a flash. The next moment, it was replaced by arrogance and wildness. Before his voice died away, he held up the sky with one hand. When this palm was held out, it kept growing and expanding. In an instant, it reached the size of 100 miles. Chaotic chi lingered on it, as if it could encompass heaven and earth and everything. Thousands of sharp sword chi fell on it, like rain falling on a calm lake. Although it stirred up ripples, it quickly calmed down and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Some of the sword chi of the Milky Way poured down from the edges of the giant palm and the gaps between the fingers, causing the earth to sink thousands of feet. The sword chi pierced the earth, and the intense friction caused the scorching heat to form magma, which quickly spread into lakes of fire. And Jiang Tian, under this sword chi, only a few strands of his hair were cut off, and there were traces of cuts on his clothes and the surface of his body. And his aura only decreased slightly, but did not suffer any essential damage. At first glance, this was not strange, and it was normal to look like this after the battle. However, when Elder Gu, Fairy Qingjue, and the others thought about it, there was already a storm in their hearts. He blocked the all-out attack of the Abyss demonic dragon, which was enough to destroy many planets, and he was still safe and sound. Oh my God! What kind of monstrous talent is this? Exclamations sounded one after another. Everyone was dumbfounded and could not believe it. There is such a person in the world. Fairy Qingjue's beautiful eyes widened, as if she was dreaming. He can cover the sky with one palm? What divine power and dharma spells are these? The corners of Elder Nangongyu's eyes almost cracked as he asked in shock. This is not a divine power or dharma spell. This is an immortal spell or an immortal divine spell. It definitely does not belong to our world. Elder Gu's lips trembled as he said in disbelief. A strong impulse suddenly appeared in his heart. He must pull Jiang Tian to his side. It would be best if he could become Gu Xian's cultivation partner. After all, he did not have much time left. If he died one day, who would protect Gu Xian? And Jiang Tian was not only proficient in the art of alchemy, but also at the level of a pill deity or even a pill saint. Most importantly, his strength and talent were strong enough. In addition, he had a clean background and had nothing to do with the forces of Saint Origin World. He was undoubtedly the best candidate. It could be said that there had not been a young man as talented as Jiang Tian in the past 1,000 years. Immortal spell? Divine spell? Everyone was stunned at first, and then their expressions changed drastically. They all looked at Jiang Tian with burning eyes as if they were looking at a rare treasure. Chapter 1930. In the Central Galaxy, the so-called deity spells and divine spells were no longer exaggerated, but not true versions of powerful cultivation techniques. They were special and couldn't be called casually, because many people believed in the existence of the deity realm and the divine realm. The deity spells and divine spells referred to the cultivation techniques from the high-level worlds. The laws and principles they contained were more advanced, condensed and mysterious, and were applicable everywhere, far surpassing the cultivation techniques of the divine sects and sacred grounds in the divine origin continent. But how is that possible? Only the 9 celestial sects in the Central Galaxy know a few deity spells and divine spells. They don't exist in the divine origin continent. And I heard that the old man came from the Black Sun star zone outside the galaxy. Nangongyu was confused. The other soul formation cultivators were also confused. I don't know about the old man. Elder Gu still wanted to say more, but when he saw Fairy Qingjue's beautiful eyes filled with admiration and shock as she looked at Jiang Tian, a thought suddenly struck him, and he shut his mouth. Nangongyu also looked at the observation Dharma artifact with his immortal will. The abyssal demon dragon looked shocked, as if it had been enraged. Then, it let out a dragon roar and tried its best. The stellar sword chi instantly became even denser and surged, and it fell down like a storm, as if it wanted to split the sky and pierce through this vast continent. Unfortunately, Jiang Tian's palm became even more condensed, and in the end, it contained all of the stellar sword chi. But Jiang Tian wasn't weak at all. His body didn't sink at all. The chaotic divine body won against the billions of star sword chi. Seeing that this method didn't work, the abyssal demon dragon opened its mouth and took back the billions of star sword chi. But then, it suddenly realized that half of the star sword chi couldn't be taken back and had been taken by Jiang Tian. That made its heart ache. Again, the abyssal demon dragon snorted and turned into a peerless fiend god with a dragon head and a human body. It was surrounded by fiend chi and monster chi. I don't believe that a mere cultivator from beyond the Milky Way is a match for me. His height shrunk abruptly, but he was still 300 meters tall. His figure was tall and robust, mighty and imposing. His dense golden hair fluttered in the wind, and every strand of his hair was sparkling and translucent. His pair of golden dragon horns were like sharp halberds, sharp like swords, and emitted a dazzling light. Old demon decimating abyss is truly enraged. He abandoned his primogenitor form and turned into a humanoid deity. He wanted to kill fellow Daoist Jiang with all his means. When the crowd saw this, they were all shocked and nervous. Has the final battle arrived? That's too fast. This Mr. Jiang only used 3 moves and forced the decimating abyss to transform into human form. Meanwhile, Fairy Qingjue's beautiful face had also turned ghastly pale. She was shocked by Jiang Tian and also nervous and uneasy. The demon clan and the human clan had taken completely different paths in the beginning stages of cultivation. Human clan cultivators absorbed the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, refined their qi, built their foundation, refined their golden cores, and displayed their dharma forms. In the nascent soul realm, they had to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth, condensing their own vital qi into tougher laws and merging it with the laws of heaven and earth, mobilizing the power of heaven and earth. Soul formation realm cultivators could even obtain the recognition of heaven and earth, obtain the support of status and control authority, as if they were the children of heaven and earth. However, the demon clan was different. In the beginning, the boundary between demon clan and deity was very blurry. Many natural demon clans often controlled certain laws of heaven and earth, such as the 5 virtues phoenix, the 5 elements peacock, and the vermilion bird of fire. The descendants of demon clans who achieved demon clan's true form cultivated the relevant content. Depending on the situation, some would also gradually condense demon cores, nurture nascent souls, or become deities. However, not all demon clans could only condense the corresponding origin blood, revert to their ancestors, and condense deities. There were also transformations, such as fish leaping over the dragon gate, or snakes transforming into dragons. If there were cultivation techniques discovered by predecessors, coupled with external objects, and painstakingly cultivated, there was hope for a complete transformation, just like how many human clans' cultivation techniques could allow them to transform into true dragons and phoenixes. However, after demon clans reached the nascent soul realm, they would often choose to transform into humans. This was because humans had always been the mainstream in the cultivation world. Correspondingly, they had more cultivation techniques, and they could go further and further. As for demon clans, if they only used their ancestor form, they could only use demon clans' cultivation techniques, which was greatly limited. Therefore, in the cultivation world, many mighty figures believed that humans and demon clans had different paths, but they would all return to the same goal. However, ancient demon dragons like the Abyss demonic dragon were all arrogant and unruly. They thought highly of themselves and valued their demon clan's bloodline, looking down on humans. Unless they met a mortal enemy and their lives were at stake, they would definitely not transform into human form. This also meant that Jiang Tian's strength made the Abyss demonic dragon feel like he was facing a mortal enemy. He was even more fearful than when he met the demon clan's half-saint Qin Pei. "You're just a snake transformed from a small worm, nourished by demonic qi. What's the big deal? How dare you call yourself an old man in front of me? Tui, you're just an old man. Watch as my sword devours the world and beheads you to announce to the world my strength." Jiang Tian was incomparably frenzied as his killing intent surged. The 9-orifice chaotic divine infant in his body roared into the sky. Vast Kunpeng divine laws surged out from the 9 orifices and entered the divine disk, circling around him as if giving him endless power. As the divine disk spun, one of the rivers of stars in it gathered into the phantom of a Kunpeng. It was the manifestation of the divine laws. Wind and clouds gathered beneath his feet as he charged towards the Abyss demonic dragon like a bolt of lightning. "Kill!" The Abyss demonic dragon roared and clenched his giant hands that were covered in scales. With a slight tremble, a dragon-scaled halberd appeared in his palms. The halberd was like a dragon's head and its branches were like dragon horns, flashing with a sharp, cold light. The 30-meter-long halberd was covered in layers of dragon scales and had the shape of dragon claws and tail carved on it. Red light surged inside as if the blood of a true dragon was flowing inside. It also let out a series of dragon roars, shocking people's hearts and making them tremble. As soon as this treasure appeared, the area within a radius of 1,000 miles was covered in frost. Heavy snowflakes floated in the sky. The temperature seemed to have dropped by a few hundred degrees. It was as if the blossoming 100 Flowers peak had been lifted by an ancient deity out of thin air and placed into the bottomless frozen sea eye of the North Sea unknowingly. This is the demonic dragon halberd, called the Golden True Dragon Halberd. It said that it's made from a piece of black gold and fused with the remains of a true dragon that fell from the universe. The true dragon's laws and great Tao were refined within. Back then, the abyss demonic dragon used it to kill many saints and soul formation cultivators, dominating an era and shocking the ages. Elder Gu sighed softly. What? The demonic dragon halberd that's said to be able to kill saints and immortals. Hearing that, everyone's expression changed drastically and they were greatly shocked. This spear could be said to be the best among sacred weapons. Its destructive power was extremely terrifying and even normal saints couldn't use it. Even though the abyss demonic dragon had the cultivation of a half-saint and was far stronger than normal saints, he could only use it smoothly because of his true dragon bloodline and his natural affinity with the spear. Fellow cultivator, this sacred weapon is dangerous. You can't take it head-on. Even Fairy Qingjue sucked in a breath of cold air. Then, she waved her right hand, and the saint weapon in her hand that was as thin as a cicada's wing and as clear as autumn water turned into a soft stream of light and flew toward Jiang Tian. Autumn water's sacred weapon. Seeing that, everyone's expression changed drastically and they were extremely shocked. Chapter 1931. The Autumn Water's Sacred Weapon. Everyone's expression changed drastically. They were shocked. This saint weapon, Autumn Water, was the most precious treasure of the Nine Profound sect. It was painstakingly refined by the founder of the Nine Profound sect and 3 generations of sect masters over 1,000 years. Its power was unparalleled, and it was famous throughout the saint origin world. Even the current sect master regarded it as her favorite. It was given to her as a congratulatory gift when Qingju became a half-saint. However, Fairy Qingjue actually lent it to Jiang Tian to defend against the enemy. For a moment, everyone was shocked, and their imaginations ran wild. Did Fairy Qingjue put in a lot of effort to win over Mr. Jiang? Looking at her expression, could it be that Saintess Qingjue has fallen in love with him? This is Autumn Water. Li Chen and Lin Dai were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out. Once, Li Chen wanted to please Fairy Qingjue. After going through a lot of hardships and narrowly escaping death, he obtained a bottle of cold spring spirit water from a forbidden mystic realm to wash his sword. However, Fairy Qingjue was furious and punished Li Chen to reflect on his mistakes for 3 years. He was almost expelled from the sect. Now, Li Chen felt extremely sour in his heart. She has already given her heart to him. Xin'er is in danger. She's a strong competitor. Elder Gu looked at Fairy Qingjue with a faint smile, but he was secretly vigilant. Fairy Qingjue, on the other hand, stood gracefully in the void, her robes fluttering in the wind. There was not much expression on her peerlessly beautiful face, as though this was a very natural reaction. She only focused on the battlefield. Elder Gu, you have good taste. Unfortunately, you overestimated him. This corpse is not complete. It's just a piece of dragon bone and some true dragon blood. Fairy Qingjue, it would be impolite to refuse a beauty's kindness. However, today, I'll show everyone that I can defeat a sacred weapon with my bare hands. If I were to use your saint weapon, wouldn't I, Jiang Xiqing, lose my reputation? Jiang Tianzong let out a long laugh. The Kunpeng used its extreme speed to meet the attack. What beauty's kindness? If you don't want it, then don't. You're still bothering me. You're making the world laugh. Since you are so careless, when you get hurt later, don't cry out in pain. Fairy Qingjue's beautiful brows furrowed slightly as 2 blushes appeared on her beautiful face. Her snow-white teeth bit her lower lip as she raised her slender jade-like hand and withdrew her sacred weapon, Autumn Water. You're courting death. Li Chen sent a message to Lin Dai using his divine sense, mocking Jiang Tian. Senior decimating abyss, you must not be careless. This kid's movement technique is strange, and he seems to be able to break through space. We must kill him continuously to prevent him from escaping. Sir God Nyoben's deity stood on decimating abyss's shoulder like a mini-person, reminding him beside his ear. At this moment his expression was relaxed. He believed that Jiang Tian was dead for sure now that the decimating abyss had mobilized this supreme-grade sacred artifact whose name shook an era. He gritted his teeth. Wait until I reconstruct my body and return to my peak. I will find your roots outside the river and kill all your parents and relatives. No, I will destroy all the lives on that planet. I will take away all the life principles and great Daoists. I will turn it into a dead planet that will never be able to give birth to a civilization. Hidden Dragon explores the abyss. Dragon roars resounded. The demon saint's halberd was surrounded by principles, clashing and rubbing against each other, causing lightning to flash and thunder to rumble. The halberd stirred up the sky, as if it was about to shatter the heavens and tear the world apart. From top to bottom, it was like a true dragon, fiercely stabbing towards Jiang Tian's chest. At this moment, Jiang Tian did not unleash his Dharma form and was only the size of a normal person. However, this true dragon halberd was 1,000 feet long. Looking from afar, Jiang Tian looked extremely small in comparison. The halberd was like a collapsing pillar that supported the heavens, attacking Jiang Tian. Good timing. Jiang Tian's expression was calm and even disdainful. However, this gave people an extremely wild feeling. After all, he was facing the decimating abyss demonic dragon. Clang. He struck out with his palm, hitting the halberd. A loud sound like that of a great bell rang out, shaking the heavens and the earth, messing up the natural laws and destroying the great Daoists. Instantly, the sun and moon lost their light, and the stars moved. The natural laws and great Daoists here were extremely heavy, but they were still torn apart, which showed the power of this collision. It could be said that if this attack was placed on a planet outside the central galaxy, a small planet would have been completely destroyed. Jiang Tian's long seclusion before leaving Earth was very effective. Not only did he have the 3 flowers at one's prominence, but his chaotic divine body was also flawless and sturdy, like the child of a natural deity. Immediately, the golden true dragon halberd was shaken until sparks burst out. These sparks were the size of millstones. Because they were made of black gold, they landed on the ground and created many bottomless pits, as if they could penetrate the world. Subsequently, numerous bolts of lightning that were around 5 kilometers long erupted abruptly from between the palm and halberd, and they stretched out in all directions like lightning dragons and pythons that shattered numerous mountains, cracked the ground, and were riddled with holes. It was like a scene of the end of the world. The two sides separated as soon as they made contact, standing 100 miles away from each other. Everyone's vast immortal will reached over, or they used Dharma artifacts to observe closer. They saw that the decimating abyss's palms were badly mutilated and his muscles were wriggling, slowly healing with difficulty. The web between his thumb and forefinger had actually cracked. And Jiang Tian's jade-white palms didn't even have the slightest scar, let alone being injured. He blocked a sacred weapon with his bare hands. How is that possible? He actually managed to block it? And it's only one hand. That hand doesn't even have the slightest scar? Is that still the palm of a mortal? At this moment, countless people's pupils contracted as they exclaimed. They thought that under the crazy attack of the decimating abyss using a supreme-grade sacred weapon, even if Jiang Tian didn't die, he would be severely injured. Who would have thought that it would actually end like this? He used deity arts and divine arts, blocking billions of galaxy sword chi with a single palm. And now, he's shown such a terrifying body. Plus, he even knows the ancient recipe of the sky-mending pill. I'm afraid he's really the reincarnation of a deity. Elder Gu even mumbled in a low voice. What? Li Chen remained silent and blushed. He had misjudged time and time again. He felt like his face had been slapped swollen. He swore that he would never comment on Jiang Tian's battles again. At the level of Jiang Tian and the decimating abyss, their abilities were unfathomable, and he couldn't understand it at all. He's actually strong to such an extent. But why did you hide it so deeply and never reveal it to me? If you had revealed even a little bit, how could I have threatened to kill myself and resolutely refused when father mentioned the marriage? Lin Dai, Er's beautiful eyes widened as she looked at the scene in the sky. Her emotions were like a roller coaster, going up and down as if a bottle of mixed feelings had been knocked over. It was extremely complicated, with some surprise, some shock, some regret, and some resentment. This is too heaven-defying. Could this be the power of a legendary deity-grade nascent soul? Even Fairy Qingjue was astonished. Her beautiful eyes were filled with admiration and admiration. Although she knew that Jiang Tian was strong, the heaven-shrouding palm that Jiang Tian executed just now had already made her gasp in amazement. She knew that Jiang Tian's body was tyrannical. However, she had never thought that Jiang Tian's body was strong enough to withstand a supreme-grade sacred weapon. This was simply like a legend. Women always worshipped the strong. Even the fairies and saintesses were no exception to this custom. Moreover, as a cultivator, her lifelong pursuit was to advance and become stronger. This kind of worship for the strong was even stronger. At this moment, she was full of reverence and admiration for Jiang Tian. Like a little fangirl who had seen her perfect idol, her heart was beating wildly. 3 flowers at one's prominence: perfected divine body, flawless, immortal, boundless lifespan, palm, able to withstand a supreme-grade sacred weapon. Jiang Tian's hair fluttered, his green robes upright, his gaze deep and distant, filled with the vicissitudes of time and filled with a strange charm. He shook his sleeves and said leisurely, Chapter 1932. Too terrifying. Is he still human? Niu Ben's deity trembled in fear, flickering between light and darkness, as if it was about to collapse. With a whoosh, it shrunk to the back of Decimating Abyss's neck, clinging onto strands of vine-like golden hair, hiding in the bush-like hair on his head. Meanwhile, Decimating Abyss's cold and indifferent eyes that seemed to hang high in the sky finally had a trace of ripple. Fear and shock emerged, and he asked involuntarily, Jiang, what kind of heavenly technique is this? It can actually block a strike from my gold true dragon halberd, and even the laws of the true dragon can't harm you in the slightest? Wudong sect's bone-melting soft palm, plus Shaolin Temple's Vajra shield and iron mantle. Jiang Tian, casually spouted nonsense. If Jiang Tian's original body was here, he definitely wouldn't reveal even the slightest trace of Earth's civilization. However, Jiang Tian's original body was not Jiang Tian's original body after all. The Jiang Tian that represented his past, the Jiang Tian that had passed away in the river of time, was an external incarnation formed from the evil thoughts and negative emotions in his heart. Therefore, he acted according to his heart, only relying on his likes and dislikes, extremely unbridled and full of destruction. Pretending to be mysterious. What bullshit, Vajra shield and iron mantle, see how I kill you. Decimating Abyss roared furiously, the bloodline of the true dragon activated, and the laws of the true dragon halberd gushed out endlessly like a surging river, madly pouring into the gold true dragon halberd. Rumble. On the halberd, the huge scales released a brilliant light, and waves of dragon roars resounded through the sky, as if a pure-blooded true dragon was awakening. The patterns of the great Tao appeared, and the patterns of the laws even surged like a tide, setting off huge waves, suppressing the laws and great Daoists of this land to the point of shattering inch by inch. Laws of the true dragon. One could only see that the laws of the true dragon condensed into a solid form, turning into dragon scales, and quickly condensing into numerous phantoms of true dragons. There were over 1,000 of them, and every single one of them could crush the heavens, as if they possessed infinite weight, causing the space to explode. I definitely can't die the moment I come into being. I can't even be defeated, ruining the reputation I've accumulated for tens of thousands of years. After fighting to this extent, Decimating Abyss finally revealed his trump card. Countless true dragon laws charged towards Jiang Tian along with his halberd, carrying a ferocious and terrifying pressure. That you should be honored to become a stepping stone for me to come out of seclusion and show off my might. Decimating Abyss's gaze was cold, filled with killing intent and boundless decisiveness. Boom! Suddenly, passing self Jiang Tian burst out with bright chaotic light. This primal chaos light was sometimes dim and incomparably deep, and sometimes all-encompassing and colorful. It couldn't be described with words. If one were to use their powerful divine sense to observe carefully, they would see that each speck of light was like a dazzling planet. As they flowed, they seemed to be able to open up a new world. Jiang Tian punched out. His movements seemed slow but were actually fast. However, it was so terrifying that it caused the souls of the dead to tremble. It was like this vast continent was about to be smashed apart by his fist. This vast world was about to collapse. Is this fist art really from the Nine Heavens immortal realm? Suddenly, Decimating Abyss was shocked. Jiang Tian's chaotic divine body was perfect and flawless. Chaotic aura coiled around every move he made. His powerful divine laws were vast and unstoppable, destroying everything in its path. Nothing could stop him. Bang, bang, bang. Rumble! The chaotic light and aura contained divine laws. They collided with the true dragon laws and emitted the sound of metal colliding. It was like a great bell colliding. Under everyone's shocked gazes, not only did the true dragon laws fail to penetrate the chaotic aura and light, they were instead suppressed by the chaotic aura and crushed by the divine laws. It's useless. If an adult true dragon was here, I might have to deal with it carefully. However, what you're holding is only a divine weapon refined from the remains of a true dragon. It's not even comparable to a single strand of my hair. Jiang Tian laughed madly as he struck out in all directions. Under the illumination of the dazzling divine disk, he was like a great sun that streaked across the horizon and roamed the sea of stars. He was like flowing water, arriving at any place he wished. Within his ferocious and domineering attacks, there were traces of an unrestrained and otherworldly aura. Every move he made shook the heavens and the earth. He possessed inconceivable power. Every punch and palm shattered everything, destroying everything in its path. Too powerful. This Mr. Jiang, not to mention in the Eastern Empire, even in the entire continent, it's probably hard to find an opponent. Everyone was dumbfounded. Even Elder Gu, this kind of living fossil, had never seen such a terrifying fist art. Such an exciting battle. Decimating Abyss even had the misconception that he was facing an innate divine spirit. The true dragon laws that Decimating Abyss evolved were shattered one by Jiang Tian's attacks. They were completely unable to trap this wandering cultivator from outside the river that he viewed as an ant. Bang! Jiang Tian's thick black hair fluttered in the wind. His clothes fluttered like a flag in the astral wind. Each of his punches was heavier than the previous one, causing the entire continent to shatter continuously. Finally, there was a huge collapse that extended for tens of thousands of miles. Many huge cities were shaking and the mountains were shaking. Boom! In just a few flicks of the fingers, countless true dragon laws had all collapsed. It could even be said that in this area of 100 Flowers Peak, everything within 1,000 miles no longer existed. It returned to nothingness in a breath's time. Everything was beaten into nothingness. This was absolute power, breaking through all obstructions. Jiang Tian's palm shattered the last true dragon law. He took a step forward, charging towards Decimating Abyss. Kill! Decimating Abyss stared with wide eyes, adopting a stance of fighting to the death. He seemed to be extremely furious, thrusting out his halberd. Suddenly, his figure turned. Like a flying dragon in the sky, he tore through the laws of space, piercing through layers of space. In the blink of an eye, he was already thousands of miles away. Shockingly, it was the Dragon Travels 10,000 miles movement technique that the dragon race was most proficient in. Decimating Abyss is actually fleeing. Everyone was deeply shocked, unable to believe it. Cultivators usually had long lifespans, experiencing the vicissitudes of life. Their temperament was different from mortals. They usually viewed honor, bloodline, and emotions with extreme indifference. Instead, they were extremely rational, even callous, considering the pros and cons of everything. If a cultivator were to face an expert, Especially an expert whose life was in danger, he would definitely not fight to the death. Instead, he would flee thousands of miles away, avoiding the brunt of the attack. Especially when Decimating Abyss and Jiang Tian were actually not in a battle of life and death for treasures. There were no interests involved. To put it bluntly, Decimating Abyss only wanted to kill Jiang Tian to show off his might after coming into being. After sensing danger, fleeing was nothing out of the ordinary. But this was Decimating Abyss. The famous ancient demon dragon, a matchless fiend, was actually forced to flee by someone. How shocking was this? Little worm, you actually want to flee? The best place for you to return to is to make a steaming hot snake banquet as a sacrifice to Fairy Qingju and I. Jiang Tian snickered, taking a step forward in a wild and domineering manner. The silhouette of a Kuan Peng appeared behind him. He seemed to be able to traverse the myriad worlds, reaching everywhere and everywhere. The boundless laws of void obediently parted in front of him like subjects facing a supreme emperor. The curvature of the laws of space naturally formed behind him, turning into a projectile and pushing force. He easily arrived 1,000 kilometers away in an instant. Like a ghost, he suddenly appeared behind Decimating Abyss. Jiang, I've already retreated in defeat. With this battle, it's enough for you to look down on the world and make a name for yourself. Why do you have to pursue me relentlessly and force me into a corner? The Decimating Abyss glared furiously, his furious roar shaking the heavens and earth as he turned around and swung his halberd. Sun-shattering, star-shattering. Chapter 1933. They saw. The boundless might of a supreme-grade sacred artifact filled the space within 1,000 miles. Boundless true dragon laws extended out from the halberd in all directions, turning into hundreds of furious dragons that danced in the air. They were mighty and mighty as they roared into the sky. Countless mountains collapsed instantly under the suppression of the laws. Many golden core and nascent soul demonic beasts hiding at the places where the spirit veins gathered were turned into dust in the blink of an eye. The might that shook the sun and moon caused the air to shatter. Endless cold light shone and the laws were as heavy as a mountain. At this moment, Decimating Abyss poured in all his magic power and truly unleashed the might of a saint's attack. Countless spectators paled. Demonic laws, rise. Decimating Abyss roared almost at the same time as he stabbed out with the halberd. Instantly, black demonic chi gushed out from his body, filling the air and turning it into hell. The incomparably viscous devil chi laws manifested into various kinds of devil gods. Some were ferocious, some were mighty and vigorous, some had mouths full of fangs, some had legs on their heads, some were lifeless, some were surrounded by rivers of blood. A total of several dozen devil gods occupied positions in all directions, protecting the surroundings of the Decimating Abyss. Decimating Abyss was indeed someone with great talent and great willpower and ambition. When he was tainted by the demonic chi back then, he should have been heavily injured or even killed. However, he never gave up and took a different path. After much hardship, he condensed the demonic chi into laws and refined them into his own abilities. The laws of the demon world were extremely terrifying. Once the law attacks of human cultivators fell into them, they would be instantly tainted, corroded and disintegrated, unable to cause any harm to him. This was also the reason why the demon imprisoning Immortal jar could only imprison him but was unable to refine him. He relied on the laws of the demon world and had shocking defensive capabilities. This kind of defense was no longer at the material level, but at the level of laws and even the great Tao. Decimating Abyss is indeed a formidable character whose name shakes the world. This is what it means to be both offensive and defensive, seeking perfection. Seeing this, Elder Gu and Nangong Yu both nodded and sighed. After Decimating Abyss realized how strong Jiang Tian was and could possibly be a threat to him, his battle strategy was no longer to fight to the death like before. Instead, it was capable of both offense and defense. It was watertight and extremely meticulous. With this old man's many years of experience fighting fiendish cultivators, I dare to say that with the decimating abyss's fiendish laws protecting his body, he would at least be able to protect himself in this collision. An experienced, almighty figure asserted. In fact, fellow Daoist Jiang is going to suffer. Many people nodded in agreement. Fairy Qingjue frowned slightly and clenched her fists, seemingly worried. Li Chen, whose face was swollen, did not want to speak at first. But the one who spoke was an experienced soul formation grand cultivator. He snorted and said, "The Dharma of fiendish nature is powerful and strange. Many sacred grounds and divine sects have studied it for 1,000 years, but they still haven't found a way to break it. This Jiang Xiqing is just a cultivator from the outer river. Even if her body is strong and she is talented, I'm afraid she is no match for us in terms of cultivation techniques." This was a competition of laws. It wasn't a physical body. A ruler has its strengths, and an inch has its weaknesses. In the arena, facing this earth-shaking attack, Jiang Tian's expression remained calm as he calmly raised his palm. Clang. A sound that shook the heavens like a huge bell was heard. The space within a few hundred miles shattered like a mirror, revealing a giant black hole. Countless space storms surged in the black hole. Rocks and cities were uprooted from the ground and disintegrated one after another, turning into fragments that flowed into the black hole. Heaven and earth even collapsed at this moment. Countless streams of essence qi swept over with the two of them at the center like dragons, as if the water of the East Ocean was pouring. Even the entire world paused slightly at this moment. Then, the next moment, boom! Endless terrifying sounds resounded within a few thousand miles like billions of thunderbolts. Everything within a 1,000-mile radius was instantly reduced to dust by this attack. Mountains, plants, demon beasts and even cultivators were all turned into powder and nothing could be seen clearly. Everything in heaven and earth fell into chaos. Even divine consciousnesses couldn't penetrate and even observation dharma artifacts stopped working. Luckily, the decimating abyss sect was afraid that Elder Gu and the others would try to stop them, so they escaped in the opposite direction. Otherwise, Elder Gu and the others would have been killed or at least severely injured. It's too terrifying, too powerful. Countless people's faces turned pale. Even the soul formation cultivators who were like living fossils were trembling. In front of this world-destroying power, they were nothing more than grass. That was the real power of heaven. Only now do I understand why Void Return cultivators are called saints. The Lord of the Eastern Canyon trembled and laughed hysterically. They're indeed as powerful as deities and Buddhas. The others were so terrified that they couldn't say anything. Who won this clash? At this moment, all kinds of substances and powders were everywhere. The laws of heaven and earth hadn't been repaired and the fragments of the Tao were still flying. Everyone's divine consciousnesses and Dharma powers of the Dharma artifacts still couldn't penetrate it. Suddenly, the decimating abyss demonic dragon rushed out from one side of the chaotic battlefield, screaming. Half of its body was almost shattered in the clash and many holes had appeared on its body, with blood gushing out. That was the blood of an ancient saint. A drop of it could kill a nascent soul cultivator, but there was so much of it at the moment. Some of the wounds were even terrifying. They went through the body from the front to the back, and even the light golden bones were exposed. The many mighty figures who were watching the battle were speechless. He can even break the laws of fiendish nature. Even Elder Gu and Fairy Qingjue were shocked. Then, ecstasy appeared on their faces. Didn't this mean that there was a way to deal with the frequent demonic tides? I'm sorry, I was wrong. The soul formation cultivator who said that Jiang Tian and the decimating abyss could protect themselves was embarrassed. Seeing the mocking gazes of the people around him, Li Yichen wanted to slap himself a few times. If I comment on this battle again, I'm a dog. Undying fiend body. The decimating abyss broke through the void and fled for his life while roaring crazily and channeling his Dharma powers. Ever since he was born, he had almost never been injured like this. His fleshly body was being refined, reconstructed, and repaired at a rapid pace. After all, he already had the strength of a saint despite being a half-saint. He was a life form of essence qi and laws. Furthermore, he had the bloodline of a true dragon and was extremely talented. His divine powers were born naturally and his self-healing ability was extremely strong. Coupled with the fiendish techniques he cultivated, he was almost immortal. In his shock and anger, the decimating abyss secretly gritted his teeth and swore. If he could escape unscathed this time, he would definitely kill Jiang Tian in the future to take revenge. Tear him into pieces, burn his bones and scatter his ashes. Furthermore, he had to extract his soul and torture him for 10,000 years in the fiendish fire. Only then could he resolve the hatred in his heart today. Just as he was thinking, Jiang Tian's figure suddenly appeared 10 meters in front of him. At such a close distance, even his pores could be seen clearly. I'm not fighting anymore. I can't beat you. I'll admit defeat, all right? I'm willing to serve you and follow you for the rest of my life. I'll be your slave and servant, loyal and devoted to you. The decimating abyss waved his hands and wanted to cry. How was Jiang Tian so fast? Chapter 1934. Oh my God! At this moment, the entire crowd was astonished and shocked. Fairy Qingjue's beautiful eyes almost popped out as she watched the decimating abyss demon dragon bow deeply to Jiang Tian. It was like a dream. The decimating abyss demon dragon had shocked thousands of years, suppressed thousands of sects and countless countries. It was no exaggeration to say that the decimating abyss demon dragon's strength was comparable to the sect master of the divine sect. But now, it was forced to admit defeat by a rogue cultivator. It's actually, Li Chen was shocked. He thought highly of himself and considered himself a genius. He was extremely narcissistic and proud of himself. But now, compared to Jiang Tian, he instantly paled in comparison. It could even be said that they could not be compared. He was not qualified to compare. After all, Jiang Tian could be comparable to the sect master of the divine sect with this battle. And he was only a seed of the sect master with a glimmer of hope to become a giant. If he developed smoothly, it would take thousands of years to reach this height. And during this period, how many difficulties and obstacles would he have to go through? It could be said that he had a slim chance of survival. There were too many seeds, and only a small number of them could truly become giants. Most of them died on the way to the next realm. His strength is actually so terrifying. Is this what gives you the confidence to disregard everything? The regret in Lin Dyer's heart was so strong that it could not be any stronger. His intestines were green with regret and knotted up. The more powerful Jiang Tian was, the more she understood what she had missed. Before this, she had always thought that Jiang Tian was too arrogant and unreasonable. He did not take her, the eldest daughter of the Lin family, seriously. He did not even take the feudal lords and the royal family seriously. He was simply arrogant and unreasonable. But now, she finally understood that Jiang Tian naturally had the ability to ignore everything. At this moment, Jiang Tian's strength was enough to look down on the entire Saint Origin world. The Eastern Empire was nothing to him. If he wanted to, he could destroy the Eastern royal family and seize the throne. Fellow Daoist Jiang, you can stop now. This person has the bloodline of the true dragon. His talent is extraordinary, and his foundation is extraordinary. Moreover, he has refined the laws of the demon realm and made a soul contract with him. He will be a good helper. Elder Gu used his divine sense to remind him. Elder Gu's words are reasonable. Fellow Daoist Jiang, you should stop now. Many other cultivators, including Fairy Qingjue, agreed with him. The strength of the demonic dragon decimating abyss was enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with the sect master of the divine sect and the great leader of the sacred lands. If he was willing to submit, then Jiang Tian would have an additional killing machine. Furthermore, the decimating abyss possessed the laws of devilish nature, which was a huge advantage. One had to know that the demonic laws were extremely corrosive and would damage the vitality and law attacks of human cultivators. However, they could resist each other. Using the devilish laws of the decimating abyss, Jiang Tian was even able to enter deep into some places with dense devilish energy, hunt down devilish beasts, and obtain cultivation resources. This was an irreplaceable convenience. Most importantly, it was not convenient for everyone to say it out loud. The decimating abyss fiend dragon still had a trump card that he had yet to use. Even if he self-destructed and perished together with Jiang Tian, or if he burned his life force essence and used it as a blood sacrifice to the black gold true dragon halberd, he could still severely injure Jiang Tian in a shocking attack. One had to know that the decimating abyss was also a formidable person of his generation. He was resolute, and vicious. As long as Jiang Tian revealed his killing intent, the decimating abyss who was at his wits' end would definitely not hesitate to do so. Therefore, to Jiang Tian, the most logical choice was to let the decimating abyss off and make a soul contract with him to make him his slave. In fact, even the decimating abyss revealed a confident smile when he bowed. Slave or servant? You're not worthy. However, what no one expected was that the past self Jiang Tian laughed in disdain. His face was as cold as steel and his eyes were filled with coldness and arrogance. He snorted coldly. Your bloodline is impure and your lifespan is almost up. In my eyes, you're like an ant, completely worthless. Your only value is to stew you with Divine Lord Niu Ben and make a steaming pot of dragon-tiger battle. What? The moment he said that, everyone's expressions changed drastically. The decimating abyss even exclaimed. Before he could react, the past self Jiang Tian had already punched out. The void was destroyed, the laws of nature collapsed and the great collapse appeared. The space in front of Jiang Tian's fist seemed to have fallen into pure void. Even space disappeared. It first formed a black hole, then a negative vacuum and finally a singularity. It was formless and dark. The surrounding void shattered and condensed, twisting and curling as it emitted a terrifying suction force and a heaviness that could tear everything apart. Everything carried yin and embraced yang. In space, after being condensed and compressed to the extreme, energy suddenly exploded and expanded. Chaos was born. It was extremely sharp, extremely explosive and filled with terrifying energy. It was invincible and unstoppable. It was as if the heavens and earth were split apart, forming planets, gathering nebulae and flowing out galaxies. There's actually such a fist in the human world. The decimating abyss's heart was filled with warnings as an unprecedented sense of danger rose. He turned pale with fright and used his movement technique, turning into a zigzagging streak of light, wanting to avoid the attack. The true dragon lineage had various movement techniques to begin with and were extremely adept at concealment. Their speed was also unparalleled in the universe. However, under the violent punch of the past self Jiang Tian, the decimating abyss actually could not dodge it. Bang! With an earth-shattering explosion, one of the decimating abyss's shoulders shattered, revealing the white bone stubble. Half of his body was covered in blood and his flesh was torn apart. Dragon blood with fiend chi lingering around it sprayed all over the sky. Translucent flesh rained down and landed on the ground, instantly corroding huge pits with a radius of 5 kilometers. The power of a single punch is actually so strong. The decimating abyss is an ancient demon with the bloodline of the true dragon. Coupled with the protection of the fiend laws, he's extremely powerful. But everyone was in disbelief. Why was Jiang Tian so terrifying that he could destroy the decimating abyss's incomparably tough body with a single punch? But they did not know. What Jiang Tian used was the eternal universe divine fist, simulating the scene of the universe returning to the origin and the eruption of chaos. This move was comparable to the natural power of the universe and had already surpassed the category of gods, void returned saints, and even the power of the laws of heaven and earth. With this ultimate technique, the eternal universe immortal sects name shook the central galaxy and they became one of the 9 great immortal sects. If this fist technique was cultivated to the extreme after passing the tribulation and becoming an immortal, it would be easy for one to crush a planet with a finger and destroy a galaxy with a single hand. Even a pure-blooded true dragon could be killed with a raise of the hand. Although Jiang Tian was only at the nascent soul realm now, the 3 flowers at one's prominence was the limit of the nascent soul realm, which was equivalent to the child of a god. He could only unleash 10% of the power of this move, but it was still not something the decimating abyss could withstand. Jiang, why do you have to force me so bitterly? I've already submitted. The decimating abyss roared crazily, both shocked and furious. With fear, he retreated frantically to repair his body while waving the golden true dragon halberd, activating vast dermic powers to create earth-shattering waves to deal with the attack. The rolling fiend chi was like raging waves that covered the sky and the sun, forming a supreme fiend chi domain that wanted to corrode and block Jiang Tian. Rip! Under the illumination of the divine disk's resplendent radiance, vanishing Jiang Tian was like a peerless heavenly blade that sliced through butter, easily slicing through the devilish domain and traversing 100 kilometers of space. As if he had appeared out of thin air, he suddenly appeared in front of decimating abyss and punched out once again. Chapter 1935. Oh my god! That speed, that movement technique! Elder Gu, Fairy Qingjue, Nangong Yu and the others were shocked and in awe. Is that why fellow Daoist Jiang ignored the decimating abyss and surrendered? He wasn't afraid of fiend chi, fiends or even the fiendish domain in the first place. In fact, some of the Sacred Grounds leaders who were watching the battle through the water observation mirror were shocked and in disbelief. The fiend chi domain was extremely corrosive and could dissolve the dermic powers, divine powers and even laws of all cultivators or dharma treasures. Nascent soul heavenly lords would fall to the ground like mortals after entering it. Even soul formation cultivators could still fly, but their speed would be greatly reduced. Their movements would be slowed down and their reactions would be slow. They would lose the initiative and be at the mercy of others. However, Jiang Tian, was like an uninhabited land. Seeing that it was too late and impossible to dodge, the decimating abyss roared furiously and opened its bloody mouth, turning day into night. An enormous black hole was formed, and a terrifying suction force sprayed out from within, seeming as if it wanted to swallow the entire heaven and earth, including Jiang Tian. The true dragon lineage was also a top-tier space creature. Although they did not have a small world in their bodies like the Taotai that could devour the world, they were still extremely good at doing so. It would be easy for an adult pure-blooded true dragon to devour an entire planet with life. Furthermore, the decimating abyss had refined the fiendish laws and that suction force was even more terrifying. The black hole was dark and the fiendish laws appeared as black patterns that were densely packed and filled with fiendish emotions that made one dizzy: violence, despair, bewitchment, evil, depravity and blood. It also made one feel an unimaginable hatred towards the heavens, the earth, the merciless Tao, the troublesome karma, the cruel fate and the fact that they did not kill enough. Enveloped by darkness, Jiang Tian seemed like he was about to be sucked into the dragon's mouth. This is way too terrifying. Who can resist the combination of the suction force of the true dragon lineage and the fiendish laws? Fairy Qingjue and the others, who were still in awe of Jiang Tian just a moment ago, felt their hearts hang in their throats as worry welled up in their hearts. A thin saber light shone and a blazing light lit up the world, as if dawn had broken and dispelled the darkness. Jiang Tian used his palm as a saber and slashed out. Palm blade. With a single slash, the mighty gale was cut in half, and the darkness was cleaved apart by a single slash. Passing self, Jiang Tian broke free from the restraints of the devouring power. Borrowing the momentum of the slash, he soared upwards, arriving in front of the decimating abyss in an instant. Simple and direct, he threw out a punch. When this punch was struck out, it was simple and natural, and it carried the Tao insight of the passage of time. It was like a primeval god was developing a fist technique, yet it was violent and overbearing to the extreme, and it seemed even capable of striking down the stars that covered the sky. Dragon blood splattered everywhere. Jiang Tian shattered the tough jaw of the decimating abyss demon dragon, causing it to fall off. The crystalline dragon bone flickered with resplendent light as it fell from the sky. As it rubbed against the laws of the Great Path, It ignited with flames that soared into the sky. From afar, it looked like a meteor shower. It was obvious who was strong and who was weak. In this collision, Jiang Tian won once again and was in a crushing position. Everyone was shocked to the point of numbness, unable to utter a single word. Fairy Qingjue's beautiful eyes rippled with extraordinary splendor. Her full chest rose and fell violently because she was too excited. Jiang Tian's strength, this fist technique that seemed to contain the mighty power of heaven and earth, and the phenomenon of splitting heaven and earth apart, was something they had never seen or heard of before. They could not even comprehend the concepts and laws within it. They could only vaguely feel that this fist technique had the phenomenon of splitting heaven and earth apart and creating all things. It had the feeling of benevolence, but also the feeling of the birth of new things and the sharpness of breaking through all obstructions. The toughness of this person's body and the strength of his fist technique are truly rare throughout history. The decimating abyss demon dragon's heart palpitated. He wanted to retreat, burning a portion of his lifeblood essence and using the blood escape technique to escape for his life. You can't escape. Passing self Jiang Tian used the Kuan Peng with extreme speed, turning into a streak of flowing light, piercing through the layers of space and chasing after him. He threw out the eternal universe divine fist again. Bang, bang, bang. Passing self Jiang Tian was unstoppable and invincible. He was much more powerful and savage than Jiang Tian's original body. The decimating abyss demon dragon was actually beaten to the point where even the golden true dragon halberd was useless, suffering heavy injuries continuously. Once the eternal universe divine fist was thrown out, the sky trembled, the earth caved in, the sun and moon lost their light, and the stars moved. This was a kind of great power that even the laws and great Daoists were crushed to pieces. It was terrifying to the extreme. Miserable cries and curses filled the sky. The decimating abyss demon dragon was beaten to the point where his bones and tendons were broken. There was not a single place on his body that was unharmed. Even his frontal bone was about to be shattered, and his soul was about to be shaken out. In the end, under everyone's terrified gazes, the decimating abyss demon dragon used his ultimate move in a moment of desperation. Two blazing divine lights shot out from his pair of dragon horns, cutting through the sky and breaking through the chaotic aura around Jiang Tian, falling down. Break! However, passing self Jiang Tian was protected by the divine laws, so he was only lightly injured. Moreover, his recovery speed was extremely fast, and he immediately recovered. Frenzied killing intent surged in his eyes. Passing self Jiang Tian stepped forward and swept out a leg that was as sharp as a peerless heavenly blade, directly breaking the decimating abyss demon dragon's sword-like halberd dragon horns. Golden dragon blood with black demonic chi lingering around it and white jade-like dragon marrow filled the sky, collapsing the sky and shattering the laws. The decimating abyss demon dragon couldn't help but howl in pain. His demonic golden vertical pupils were filled with fear as he held the golden true dragon halberd and fled. The dragon horns were where the laws and principles condensed on the true dragon's body, and they were the toughest. With his cultivation, the toughness of this pair of dragon horns was no weaker than a divine weapon, but they were still broken by Jiang Tian's leg. How could he not be afraid? Too powerful. This is how cultivators of our generation should be. At this moment, everyone watching the battle was shocked. The hearts of many living fossils that had been dead for too long and were like stagnant water in a dry well were filled with surging waves. They were fascinated, and their blood boiled because of it. However, the decimating abyss demon dragon's movement technique was too weak compared to Jiang Tian's. He was blocked by Jiang Tian again and shattered into dozens of pieces by Jiang Tian's palm. Broken body rebirth. The decimating abyss used the innate ability of the true dragon bloodline and very quickly reassembled. This time, his frenzied aura of slaughter surged into the sky, carrying a deep demonic nature. Boundless resentment and determination flashed through his scarlet eyes that had become bloodshot as he roared madly. Blood sacrifice halberd. Crack. At this moment, his broken body directly collapsed, turning into a shocking streak of blood that wrapped around the golden true dragon halberd. Even the divine treasures that were like divine palaces collapsed, turning into endless dermic powers that poured into the halberd. Only a deity with a dragon head and a human body was left, fleeing into the depths of the void. He actually used his life essence to sacrifice the halberd, summoning the soul of the true dragon to unleash the greatest power of this supreme-grade divine weapon. The corner of Elder Gu's eyes twitched in shock, as if he hadn't expected the decimating abyss demon dragon to be so decisive. Then, boundless fear surfaced on his face as Elder Gu shouted, "Fellow Daoists, run!" Chapter 1936. Cultivators and magic treasures influenced each other. They would often place their magic treasures into their dantian, spirit embryo, or divine treasures, nourishing and polishing them with blood essence, true essence, and laws. After using and refining them for a long time, their lives would often be intertwined, forming a close connection and a deep connection. When cultivators faced danger, the power of their magic treasures would also sublimate at any time, their potential stimulated. Especially Decimating Abyss, who possessed the bloodline of a true dragon, was even more sensitive to the true dragon's remains and remnant soul within the golden true dragon halberd. The potential of this natal magic treasure was also greater, making it easier to stimulate. Once the blood sacrifice was made, the true dragon's remains and soul within the halberd would be stimulated, transforming into endless and terrifying laws and great Dao attacks. However, generally speaking, even if one used their natal essence as a blood sacrifice for a magic treasure, they would definitely not give up their entire corporeal body. Using a mouthful of natal essence was enough. Even if one used up all of their natal essence, their corporeal body would still be present. It was just that their cultivation would be greatly weakened, but if they were nourished with natural treasures and consumed nourishing and healing medicines, they would be able to recover very quickly. Elder Gu and the rest had never imagined that Decimating Abyss would actually be so ruthless and decisive, directly dispersing the divine body that he had refined for countless years, sacrificing the life of his corporeal body as a blood sacrifice for the halberd, unleashing the greatest power of this supreme-grade sacred artifact. This was a cruel price to pay, but he still had to kill Jiang Tian, leaving only his divine body intact, and find a chance to reforge his corporeal body. This was simply putting his life on the line for survival. The courage and resoluteness contained within this caused others to both respect and fear him, as expected of the ancient devil dragon whose name had shaken the ages. As expected of the unparalleled giant that looked down on thousands of sects and countless countries. When everyone had retreated several hundred li, the power of the golden true dragon halberd finally erupted. Rumble! With a world-shaking boom, the mighty might of the dragon race transformed into an incomparably enormous golden pillar of light, at least 100 li in diameter. It soared into the sky, reaching a height of 1,000,000 li, shattering the earth and mountains, evaporating the lakes and rivers, shattering the clouds and stars, collapsing the laws and great Tao, tearing the sky apart. At this moment, in the boundless Saint Origin world, be it mortals or cultivators, everyone could see this dazzling pillar of light with their naked eyes. Heavens! What is this? It seems to have happened in the Eastern Gorge Duke's fief in the Eastern Empire. Terrifying. Could it be that the 9 heavens immortals are fighting? At this moment, the entire Saint Origin world was trembling. The earth was undulating like waves. Everyone couldn't stand still as they exclaimed and looked up. Whether it was the high and mighty hidden sects, the royal families of the mortal world, or even the common people, they were all paying close attention and could not be ignored. Balls of 5-colored divine lightning appeared around the light pillar and exploded. Every bolt of lightning was tens of thousands of feet long. Soon, they turned into lightning dragons and coiled in the void, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. They were extremely real and heavy. This was the manifestation of the laws. Lightning was one of the laws controlled by the true dragon lineage. Not only were there lightning dragons, but there were also all kinds of dragon-shaped laws of wind, water, earth, and fire. They were all different in shape, reflecting each other as they circled around the light pillar. The lightning illuminated the heaven and earth. Vast primordial laws fell and the divine light of creation surged as if the heaven and earth were being split apart. Around the halberd, a pitch-black hole suddenly appeared in the space, forming an extremely deep chaotic hole. It seemed to be connected to another world. It was as if the world of the dragon clan had been smelted and became a part of the halberd, becoming its laws and power. Boom! In this pitch-black chaotic hole, the golden true dragon halberd shrank instead of expanding. The vast cold light and magical power shrunk to a length of 10 feet. The black light flickered and was incomparably heavy as if it was real. However, it was actually the condensation of the laws and the great Tao. It had transcended the physical world. At this moment, everything in the world was gone. The light pillar and the dragon-shaped laws returned to silence and were all melted into the cold light of the halberd. Only the halberd remained in the sky, seemingly calm. However, it was as if a raging dragon was hibernating and accumulating power, ready to launch a thunderous attack at any time. It was like the calm before the storm. It was the most terrifying. Suddenly, the golden true dragon halberd moved again. It was straight and simple as it stabbed towards Jiang Tian. However, in the eyes of many mighty figures, this attack was unprecedentedly terrifying. Amidst the waves of incomparably vast and ancient dragon roars that seemed to have passed through a myriad of years and caused one's soul to shake and be on the verge of shattering, the halberd actually caused various grand Tao fragments to float up and down everywhere it passed. Wind, lightning, earth, fire, and darkness, there was naturally no need to mention these various laws and grand Taos that could be seen normally, and it even touched upon the even more profound grand Taos of space and time. Wherever the halberd passed, the void collapsed. It was dark, chaotic, and pitch black. It was as if it could annihilate the heaven and earth, transcend time, deprive all things, distort the laws, and distort karma. It was not only the sight that was black, but also the senses and cognition. What a strange spear! The dragon's power and demonic nature are mixed. It is indeed difficult to deal with. Elder Gu and the others, who were thousands of miles away, gasped. It was as if they had been deprived of their sight, hearing, and touch. They could no longer distinguish up from down, left from right, and could no longer grasp the passage of time. They only felt that even if a Buddha or a true immortal descended, it would be difficult to dodge this attack. After all, this was an attack that the decimating abyss had used all his cultivation to activate, awakening the slumbering true dragon's corpse and soul. Various true dragon laws surged out. However, under everyone's incredulous gazes, Jiang Tian roared as he clenched his right hand into a fist. His thumb was placed between his middle and index fingers as he formed a strange fist seal and punched the halberd fiercely. He still took it head-on with his physical body. Clang! The 30-meter-long halberd light was completely shattered by Jiang Tian's fist. No matter how noble your bloodline is, your innate abilities, your demonic nature is strange, and your sacred weapon is powerful, how can you match the power of my complete chaotic divine body? When the cold light of the long halberd was broken, the entire sky and earth fell into a deathly silence. Everyone was speechless. At this moment, all the spectators, whether it was Elder Gu and the others around the 100-Flower Peak, or the Sacred Grounds Sect Master or the Divine Sects Sect Master, were all dumbfounded. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. The outcome has been decided. Even if the decimating abyss self-destructs, it won't be able to hurt him. In the depths of a certain divine sect, a grand elder who was watching this battle had a long white beard and was at the void reversion realm. He had a long lifespan and rich experience, and could be called a living fossil. He was one of the founding masters of this divine sect. He was deeply moved and could not conceal his shock. Indeed, the golden true dragon halberd lost control instantly, as if it had lost its dermic powers and spirituality. It was actually sent flying backwards at an extremely fast speed like a shooting star. The countless people exclaimed as they rode streaks of light and shot into the sky, dodging rapidly. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.